call this. All right. I'm going to call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning on August 28th, meeting to order. All right. Before we get started, I need to address anyone online and anyone in the room. Earlier this week, or perhaps last week, I received city staff sent an email out about procedure in regards to meetings in general, but also about the upcoming meeting that we are all here today. Let me do this because I can't see any of you. Okay, so I am a heavy communicator, which without registering it, because I'm addressing a single topic that he has brought up, which is procedural, I replied to all, which means informally or by some standards that could be considered an impromptu meeting of council off record. Nothing about this meeting was discussed. It was procedural and suggestions of how and what I say, but it was not in any way topic specific to this meeting or the content of any of the applications that we will be reviewing today. But I did want the public to know that I did this. I have been suitably chastised, re-educated yet again, and I will, moving forward, think everything Joel sends me is spam, and I will not take the bait. Okay. Okay, yeah, on me. All right. So moving forward, we open each meeting with an opportunity for citizen comments. Now, these citizen comments cannot be in any way, shape, or form relevant to either the public meeting or anything currently on this agenda. A reminder, agendas are posted and published prior to the meetings, both online, on the city website, and in the paper. Again, opportunity to talk about anything that is on your mind, except for perhaps my missteps. And then, but not relevant to this. So if anybody has anything they would like to bring forward to the commission, not relevant to today's agenda.
Commissioner Ball.
Yes.
I just want to make a point of clarification. Jennifer Tigano, City Attorney.
Yes.
The public comment shouldn't be related to the public hearing, but it can be related to anything else that's currently before the commission.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Everybody got that? Now, anybody interested in coming forward about anything but the public hearing? All right, seeing none, we will continue to move forward and get on to business. Our first agenda item is approval of the July 10th, 2024 meeting minutes. If everybody had an opportunity to review those, does anyone have any recommendations, errors, anything to bring forward in the reviews? Yes, Kathy.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from that meeting as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Gabe. We have a motion and a second on the table to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Recuse.
Or we have one
Recused also.
recuse and
I'm recused also.
two recuses and no opposed. Motion passed. Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda, we have review and consideration of a preliminary plat with respect to Canyon Crest West Phase IA. And it is a request by applicant Dan Youngie? Young, okay. Asking for approval of a preliminary plat to subdivide 7.69 acres. Mark is going to explain it's 18th Street South and Pioneer Drive west of, I guess. Take it, please, and reveal all.
Reveal your secrets.
I'm killing myself over here.
That's gonna work when I change it too.
It's so everybody can see it online.
Well, I know, but when I change the window, it's gonna, if I
It'll
go
be
to
fine.
it.
No problem.
All right, Commissioners, good evening. Mark Wiggins, City Surveyor. I'm here to present the staff report for the Canyon Crest West Edition Phase 1A preliminary plat. This is an aerial image of the proposed development. The preliminary plat of the Canyon Crest West Edition Phase 1A proposes to replat or approximately 7.69 acres of land into 30 development lots. The property is vacant at this time and is bordered by 18th Street on the east and the Estates at Canyon Crest Phase 2 subdivision on the north. Additional undeveloped property owned by the applicant borders on the south and west sides of the proposed subdivision. The applicant's property actually extends to the platted but unconstructed 17th Street, and that's this kind of cyan line over here on the west, and then down to Airway Avenue on the south, which is this one way down here. Because the proposed development is only a portion of a much larger series of parcels, this development began with the process of developing this property by submitting a development master plan. That was done in 2023, and we will see a copy of that development master plan drawing in a few slides. First, we will move on to some ground shots. So our first photo is taken from approximately the middle of the proposed subdivision along the 18th Street side and looks generally north. We can see 18th Street here on the east side or right side of the photo, and the residences here in the distance kind of are actually those in the Estates at Canyon Crest Phase 2 subdivision that I mentioned earlier. As you can see, the ground is gently rolling and currently in cultivation. The second photo is also taken from the same position, but I have turned approximately 90 degrees to the left and am now looking generally west out across the applicant's property. On the right side of the photo, we can see a break in the fences that border the residences in the subdivision to the north. This break is at the location of the existing south edge of Park Ridge Way, which is the street that the developer is proposing to extend to service the proposed subdivision. This photo, I have again turned approximately 90 degrees to the left, and I'm now looking generally south. And we can see once again, 18th Street is now on the left side of the photograph. All of the cultivated property out to the line of houses in the distance, clear out here, is part of the applicant's existing ownership, but approximately the closest 270 feet is included in the current proposal. For this next photo, I have actually moved to the southern end of Park Ridge Way, and I'm looking due south out across the applicant's property. At this location, we are essentially at the northwest corner of the proposed development. So he will extend this road out, and then the development is over in this area. And then for the last photo, I have moved about 20 feet south and turned about 90 degrees to the left for a shot looking down the east line toward, looking east down the northerly boundary of the developer's parcel. The cultivated field in the foreground is the proposed subdivision, and the line of residences out beyond are on the east side of 18th Street. Here is a copy of that development master plan that I mentioned earlier. Development master plans will frequently evolve over the course of a development due to adjusting for unanticipated problems or to a change in the market demand. But they provide a framework for the objectives that the developer wishes to achieve. The development master plan allows the subdivision committee to examine the developer's overall concept for development so they can determine general conformity to land use and zoning ordinances and other applicable zone development standards. Although the developer's anticipated phasing has changed from what is shown on here, we can see that the current preliminary plat matches the configuration contained in the development master plan. So if you look at up here at this corner, that'll look exactly like what we saw in the aerial. And then as I jump to the actual preliminary plat, that would be this area and basically looks identical to that. So this is the preliminary plat, and on here we can see the configuration of the 30 lots. We also then see the configuration of the streets that will serve them. Although the preliminary plat drawing does show phase 1B down here, you will notice that it is labeled for future and is shown grayed back so that we will not be considering that portion tonight. The current preliminary plat proposal is only for the 30 lots contained in phase 1A. All of the proposed lots in the subdivision will be standard lots which have frontage on an improved public street that exceeds the minimum required lot width for the zone. Several of the proposed lots are configured to abut 18th Street on the east side of the subdivision. Transportation plans call for 18th Street to be a major collector in the future and indicate that 18th Street should be protected from congestion caused by direct residential approaches. To eliminate the undesired residential congestion, building lots along 18th Avenue will require reverse frontage with access control in the form of a screening easement, which will restrict direct access to abutting parcels from 18th Street. And basically what that is you'll see that there's a note in here that talks about a 10-foot easement along this entire east side of the subdivision. That easement basically prevents any of the landowners from then accessing, putting any driveways, anything like that from 18th across to their properties. They will be required to access them from the cul-de-sacs. That is to keep 18th Street from having people do things like back out into 18th Street and what we're hoping will eventually become kind of a major collector in the area. The city code section 3232F suggests this type of access control to preserve the traffic function of an arterial route. As noted earlier, Park Ridge Way will be extended south, and Yellowstone and Wild Horse Courts will be constructed to serve the proposed subdivision. These three streets total approximately 1,414 lineal feet of new public streets constructed and dedicated to serve the proposed subdivision. In addition, approximately 544 lineal feet of frontage improvements will be required along the portion of 18th Street adjacent to the subdivision. An existing COSD sewer main already exists in the location proposed for Park Ridge Way, which is out in here. It actually runs clear from 17th Street through this area and up through the proposed development. And additional sewer mains will then be extended eastward from Park Ridge Way to serve the remainder of the proposed subdivision out through Yellowstone and Wild Horse Court. LOID has agreed to provide service for the proposed subdivision conditioned upon the successful annexation of the proposed development into the district and LOID's approval of the designs, construction plans, and constructed improvements of the proposed water distribution infrastructure. Avista Utilities and Sparklight have also confirmed their intent to provide utility service to the development. CenturyLink Lumen Technologies has elected not to provide service for the proposed development. The subject property was recently annexed and zoned R2, and the proposed lot configurations comply with the minimum requirements for lots in that zone. The preliminary plat is presented at a scale of 60 feet to the inch when printed at full scale, which differs from the 100 feet to the inch standard specified in section 3220A of subdivision code. Because the 60:1 scale provides for better clarity of lines, bearings, and dimensions as specified in Title 50-13041 of Idaho Code, city staff recommends that the 60 feet to the inch scale be accepted as exceeding the code requirement of the specified 100 foot to the inch scale. With the exception of the noted difference in scale, the preliminary plat complies with the applicable requirements of the City of Lewiston Subdivision Ordinance, City Code Chapter 32. City staff recommend that the Lewiston Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the Lewiston City Council approval of the Canyon Crest West Edition Phase 1A preliminary plat as presented. A draft copy of a reasoned statement incorporating information from the staff report has been included in the information packet for your consideration. This concludes my staff report, and I am available for any questions.
Commissioner Kathy. Yeah, Madam Chair, I have a question. On the north boundary of the new subdivision, will that abut to the fences, the fence line that we saw on the previous picture, or is there an alleyway in between there?
There did used to be a dedicated street in there that was vacated prior to the actual platting. That is owned by the developer, and so all of those lots will go clear up to those previously platted lots, and so that the two lots will butt up against each other on that line.
I have a question. Are you aware if they've done a traffic generation study at all to see how it would affect 18th and 17th Street?
It's a little bit outside my area since I'm a surveyor, not an engineer, but they have done traffic reports for this area. That's part of their did studies for TIAs that are required with this. So I know they have looked at those things in conjunction with the TIAs, and I believe they are, making considerations for that traffic report and the TIAs that are involved.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark. Based on that presentation and refresher to this proposed preliminary plat, we should now review the standards and criteria specific to this plat request and review. And we will begin that. So you. Always try. Okay, so our list of relevant criteria and standards, I think encompasses 12 different considerations. And I will read them in numerical order and discuss after each. The proposed subdivision, oh, here we go, this one. I believe it's page 12 of 82. Okay. And the applicant's answers were included in the application that you have before you. So the first criteria question, the proposed subdivision will or will not be in compliance with the intents and purposes of chapter 32 regarding subdivisions of the Lewiston City Code, Lewiston City Code 32-2. Purpose states, orderly growth, harmonious development of the city of Lewiston, ensure adequate traffic circulation through coordinated street systems with relation to major thoroughfares, adjoining subdivisions and public facilities, to achieve individual property lots of reasonable utility and livability, to secure adequate provisions for water supply, drainage, sanitary sewerage. That doesn't seem like a word. And other health requirements. To ensure consideration for adequate sites for schools, recreation areas, and other public facilities, and to promote the conveyance of land by accurate legal descriptions and to provide logical procedures for the achievement of this purpose. In addition, its interpretation and application, the provisions of this chapter are intended to provide common ground of understanding and a sound, equitable working relationship between the public and private interests to the end that both independent and mutual objectives can be achieved in the subdivision of land. So, do we believe that it does or does not fall into compliance with that chapter? Mo?
I believe that it does fall within the chapter. So Ms. Tangano pointed out that looking at the pages 1 through 6, it looks like they're all numbered sub 24-000004. But yet everything else that we have.
Are we speaking of the
documentation-wise,
application number? Is you?
It says approval of subs 24-000006.
Mine says 4.
So the application number is say
Oh.
06. But the bottom of the pages all say 04, so.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
gotcha. Well, that's handy. So we are,
Can we confirm that we're working on 06?
one,
Jennifer Tangano, City Attorney, I think that that's just a typographical error that will need to be amended or corrected through an amendment upon approval of the reason statement.
and it is 06 or 04.
My understanding with the way that community development numbers these, it should be sub 24-6. My understanding is they got rid of all the extra
The zeros.
zeros.
That would
Yeah,
help.
it's the same number. We just eliminated the zeros, so you don't have to read them all the time.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. I wasn't tracking what Mo said.
The numbers are done by Public Works. I don't know if they're the same as ours.
It is done the same way.
Okay, so technicality, we are looking currently at
Got a
seven
little
twenty-four
hung up on the
6.
technicality, so
Mhm.
I got a little hung up on technicality.
All right. So it is on the table that we will have to recommend an amendment to correct that number. All right, moving forward, will or will not? Kathy,
I'm good with it. Will.
Will.
Kevin,
I agree, you will.
Shay,
Agree it will.
and
Will.
Emily?
Yep, well.
All right. So we agree it meets the expectations and intent. Subdivision. Two, proposed subdivision will or will not be in compliance with the intents and purposes of chapter 37, which is the zoning of the Lewiston City Code. The purpose states, the purpose of this chapter is to promote the orderly development of the city according to the comprehensive plan, to conserve and stabilize the value of property, and otherwise to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare. I will lead off with this one, I believe, by extending the currently incomplete road down into the subdivision directly with no accesses to 18th. I think that it has indeed addressed compliance intents and purposes of orderly development, public health and safety. So Emily,
I have a quick question. Do we need to give you reasons for these?
okay, you can nod and go, will. You can say will. I just want to give everybody
Okay.
an opportunity to speak or consider speaking, and I'm not gonna pass you over until you tell me you agree with or disagree with it.
Okay.
Fair? Shay,
I agree.
Kevin,
I agree. Agree.
Agreed.
okay, so that meets now,
Do you need a little more than that?
no,
Jennifer Tangano, city attorney, typically when the commission is presented with a blank reason statement, then it's asked for more detailed descriptions. You are welcome to add to, change, or remove explanations that are in the reason statement presented by the city surveyor, if you wish. So this does not have to be presented to the city council in the way that it currently is. And we do have an applicant here as well for if you have any other questions. This is not a public hearing, so there's no collection of evidence or any constraints that way. So you do have, if you want clarifying information, you can get that and you can add it to the reason statement as well if you wish.
okay, so based on the completed questionnaire of criteria and standards, you're saying we're good to go if we agree with what was said. Okay. All right, well, taking that into mind, number 3, the proposed subdivision will or will not be in compliance with chapter 37. It, the one says it will be in compliance. See, try and catch myself up. Because subject property is currently zoned R2 and the proposed lot configurations adhere to the requirements of that zone as outlined in the City of Lewiston zoning ordinance, City Code, Chapter 37. Do we agree with that assessment that it will be in compliance?
Yes.
Kevin?
Sure, I have a question. So looking at this, the whole plat, and this one dealing with the actual being zoned R2, is the whole plat, future development to complete this, that's all rezoned already or zoned as R2. Is that correct?
I could be incorrect, but I think when we saw this back in August with the request for subdivision and the master.
If this one's all R2, there's a separate one that's R3, but that's not this one.
Right. Okay, I just wanted to.
Okay, so we're specifically focusing on this phase 1A.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Any other questions or disagreements with the will be in compliance statement? No. Moving forward, therefore, 3 we agree with. 4, proposed subdivision will be in conformance with the Lewiston Comprehensive Plan's requirements and objectives. The commentary, the proposed plat adheres to the requirements for the R2 zone, which were established to promote the orderly development of the city according the comprehensive plan to conserve and stabilize the value of property and otherwise to promote public health, safety, and general welfare. Yes, Kevin?
So when it talks about the, being in compliance with the comprehensive plan and the timing of our new comprehensive plan, is this, are we looking at that it complies with the new one, the 2020 or 2044?
Jennifer Tangano, City Attorney, is the question whether or not the Planning and Zoning Commission should be looking at it, or if the city surveyor considered it during the evaluation?
City surveyor.
I think that's a question best left to the city surveyor to answer.
He still here? I'm sorry. Sorry.
He was hiding in the back.
I haven't had a copy of the new one yet, so I did not. I was looking at the old
Okay.
one, so.
So we can assume that it's the previous one.
Correct.
The-
99.
The current.
If it changed, you might want to look at that, so.
Okay, but I don't think that's.
And I was just asked whether or not I was the one that drafted this reason statement, since I typically do. I was not the one that drafted this particular reason statement.
Okay.
And so, I'm not exactly sure when the application was submitted. But that would potentially have a play on which comprehensive plan it was subject to review at that time.
And I mean, for me, I mean, it's kind of semantics because I'm pretty sure that both comprehensive plans in this area are pretty much the same. And I guess my next question, since this raised, has the 2020 or 2044 not been implemented or approved? Or
It's been adopted.
Been adopted, so moving forward, that's what we're working with, is that correct?
Correct. And the future land use designation on the old plan versus the new plan, they're labeled different things, but the intents and purposes of the future land use designation on the both comp plans is pretty much the same.
Okay. And that's what I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
So adheres to the requirements for R2. R2
Right.
code requirements, I do not believe have changed.
No, they haven't. It just, because, I mean, the zoning is still the same. It just, he's talking about the comprehensive plan, so.
So I think
that was relevant.
I am comfortable moving forward, accepting that particular standard
Okay, yeah.
criteria as written, based on the 1999 plan. 5 is the proposed subdivision does or does not include the entire tract of land, which an approved preliminary plat, planned unit development, or approved development master plan shows development in phases, which in fact we know it does, and Mark has reiterated you're in phase 1A, and we have in fact seen and approved master plan and subdivision. I read. Any objections? Number 6, the proposed subdivision has or has not been reviewed by applicable public utility providers. The response on the staff report is we already have all the goodies in place. It has addressed extension of public utilities, has LOID's approval and approval of the design and the construction plans of Vista Utilities Sparklight. So it appears they have done their due diligence and there are no red flags on that. Does everyone agree?
Agreed.
Thank you. Application number 7, the applicant has compiled with all elements of the city code 3220. And the response is the plat was reviewed by the city surveyor and public works staff under the direction of the city engineer. The preliminary plat is presented at a scale of 60 to the inch when printed at full scale, which differs from the 100 to the inch standard specified in code, but because the 60:1 city or scale provides a better clarity of lines, bearings, and dimensions, specified in Title 50-13041 of Idaho Code, city staff does recommend that the 60-1 scale be accepted as exceeding. And I don't have any problems with that. Does anyone have an objection? This has been discussed in previous meetings.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we had discussion
Yeah.
on this in prior meetings. Yeah.
So we're on record already as accepting the 60. Meetings, proposed subdivision does or does not contain all of the part of the site, or all or any part of the site or proposed park, school, flood control facility or other public areas shown by the city's comprehensive plan or future acquisitions map. And the response is, the approved city comprehensive plan does not propose any public areas in this location. So I do believe that it does not overlap any designations protected for those uses. Anyone disagree? No. 9, the proposed subdivision is not or is within a known floodplain. And per the response, FEMA flood insurance rate maps do not indicate that the platted property is located in a designated floodplain, so therefore is not a concern criteria or standard. Yes, no? It's good. All right. Proposed subdivision does not have in whole or in part terrain having an average slope exceeding 10%. And the response is the native slopes within the plat area are less than the 10% threshold. And all constructed improvements will be designed by an Idaho licensed engineer. Therefore, it does not pose a conflict or criteria standard 10.
That's correct.
Yes, okay. The proposed subdivision is in conformance with the city's master transportation plan or neighborhood plan. For the comments, 18th Street is addressed in the current adopted transportation plan and measures proposed to restrict residential access to prevent congestion adhered to the intents. The plan does not address or make recommendations for other streets located within the applicant's proposed development. And that was addressed in Mark's presentation. 18th is indeed protected, which means it is in conformance with the city transportation. Yes, sir.
So this one right here, this pertains to construction of the roads, is that correct? The streets? When it talks about conformance,
Conformance with the master transportation plan?
yes,
Yes.
okay,
And dedication of right of way.
right,
Yeah.
okay, I thought so, I just want to clarify.
Last, we have the proposed subdivision. Street names are in conformance with the Lewiston City Code 31-85, and the commentary identifies Park Ridge Way is the continuation of an existing street previously approved by the city council. Yellowstone Court and Wild Horse Court are names for the local emergency services dispatch area and adhere to the requirements established for the cul-de-sac streets. So per staff report, they are in conformance. Do we have any disagreements? No, so barring any additional questions, comments, or directional towards Mark, I believe with the amendment to the application number sub 24-6, which is to amend references not.
It's in the footer.
It's in the footer. Oh, to change the footer references. So do I have a motion to approve this preliminary plat with the amendment stated?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Kevin. Second. Thank you, Mo. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor of instructing staff to draft a reasoned statement in approval of this preliminary plat, say aye.
Aye.
Any abstaining parties? No. And the 0 nays. So I believe we'll move forward to city council. Thank you, everyone, on that. All right. Now to the moment everybody's waiting for. Okay, moving forward, our next agenda item. This is a public hearing. Regarding CUP 24-3, which is an application by Michelle King, requesting a conditional use permit approval to establish a transitional housing village for young adults needing housing on approximately 0.5 acres in the light industrial M1 zoning district at 2207 East Main Street and the 2 adjacent tax parcels to the east and north. This application includes a request to allow some of the required parking to back out onto 22nd Street, which I believe is a north-south directional. This is a quasi judicial matter. So before I open the public meeting or the public hearing, I would like to explain to everyone the processes that we are going to follow. We are going to open the public hearing. We are going to have a staff presentation, which will explain in full what we are hearing today, what the commission will be addressing. We will then have the applicant come forward and give testimony or her own presentation. And then there will be an open opportunity, not open, constructive and regulated opportunity for testimony from the public. We are going to ask, because we want everyone to have the opportunity to speak. You're going to ask those speaking publicly to address their comments to the commission specifically, not to each other, not to the audience, etc. So I hope we're clear on that. Okay, we are not going to limit the applicant to a 3-minute standard, but we are going to ask the public testimony speakers to limit their comments to a 3-minute period. Okay, so the last thing that I would like to address before I open this meeting is the expectations outside of the 3-minute standard. Our expectations, as I mentioned, is please address the commission. You are not addressing the applicant or each other, we're addressing the commission. And we would ask for civility. And civility means that includes those seated in the audience when we have speakers up front, and keep our topics and our comments when we have the mic to the application details at hand. If we can do that, it would be very appreciated moving forward. Okay? So if everybody is ready, let's go ahead and get this show on the road, shall we? Okay. It is 6:07. We are now going to open the public hearing on the permit application CUP 24-3. Right. And we are going to begin with the staff presentation as mentioned.
Good evening, I'm Joel Plaska, I'm the Lewiston City Planner. Find my stuff. Get rid of this. Rejected. I got behind in the middle. Oh, didn't even see it.
One on the left. It'll close them all. Hit the one on the left. There you go.
More. So I think what we'll do is we'll start with just some visuals here. Rotate it. So this is a print of the city's geographic information system with the zoning layer turned on. So it's kind of covering up what you're looking at. It's an aerial photograph. North is up on this map. The subject property is kind of circled in black here in the very center. This down here is East Main Street. And this is US 12 right here. And 21st Street is off to the left in the lower left-hand corner. So the subject property is located here in the M1 zone. That's a light industrial zone. That's this purplish color. The reddish color to the east and to the south is the general commercial C4 zone. And then this blue color to the north and northeast and the west is the multiple family residential R4 zone. This is that same GIS aerial photograph with the zoning layer turned off. Again, the subject properties in the middle here, East Main Street, north is up. This is El Sombrero Restaurant. There's some single family homes over here on the south side of East Main. This is a commercial building, the use of which I couldn't quite tell. This is 23rd Street. The subject property butts both East Main and 22nd Street here on the west. You can see the single family residential neighborhood to the north and to the northeast. And you've got a mixed use neighborhood to the south and to the further to the east up East Main. Same thing, just blown up a little bit. Subject properties here. This is the existing building on the subject property currently being used by Twin County United Way. That's the building that, if this project goes forward, would be converted to a commons building for the proposed transitional housing village. And the grassy area behind it would be the area where the sleeping units would be. So that can get you oriented that way. We also have photographs. Full screen here. Just looking from the south side of East Main at the front of the building on the subject property that I just showed you on the GIS. This is looking from approximately the southeast corner of the subject property, or maybe a little west of that, northwest, across that grassy area I was showing you on the GIS. This is a shop building on a neighboring property to the north. This is looking west-northwest from the east side of the drainage ditch that runs through the center of the property. So this is the east side of what's currently the Twin County United Way building. This is the parking lot that's currently in place. This SUV is in the ADA stall. This is looking east at the commercial building on 22nd Street that I showed you in the GIS. This is not actually part of the subject property. This is a vacant lot to the east of it. I'm sorry, 23rd Street, thank you. One is looking west-southwest. So this is the back of what's currently the Twin County United Way building. This is looking due west along the north property line of the subject property, and the house across the street from where the sleeping pods would be. So this is 22nd Street back here. This is where the paved parking would be. It's not paved yet, but if this project moves forward, the paved parking would be located here. That's the parking that would back out on the 22nd Street. This is looking east from the northeast corner of the subject property. So this is 23rd Street. This is that vacant parcel of land to the east of the subject property. This is a house just northeast of the northeast corner of the subject property. This is the back of the house. It actually faces 23rd. But we're standing pretty much at the northeast corner of the subject property here. This is the backside of a shop that fronts 22nd Street. It was actually permitted as a motorcycle repair shop. So this fence is the, on the north property line of the subject property. This is looking south-southeast. This fence is the drainage ditch that runs through the property behind the building, which is over here. It was looking due east along the north property line of the subject property. This is looking south down the west property line of the subject property. So this is 22nd Street. This is looking at a house across the street on the west side of 22nd Street. Again, the back of the existing building on the property with the drainage ditch over here. This is looking north-northeast, drainage ditch here, sleeping unit area back here, proposed, I should say. This is the west side of 22nd Street. This is actually the easterly part of Locomotive Park on the east side of US 12. Currently being used by construction workers working on the bridge. This is the southwest corner of the building on the subject property. So this is 22nd Street here in the foreground. Red Lion across the street. El Sombrero across the street. It's looking across the front yard of the subject property, looking east. Looking from the other direction across the parking lot on the east side of the building. This is the part of El Sombrero and then some single family homes. And those are those single family homes that I was just pointing to on the south side of East Main Street. This is the front of that shop building that's to the north of the subject property. This is the one I said was permitted originally as a motorcycle repair shop. That's the end of those. So I think what I'll do now is summarize the staff report. I'm going to start with a brief mention of comprehensive plan. This application was reviewed under the city's new comprehensive plan, Envision Lewiston 2044. The property in question is in the community commercial future land use designation on the comprehensive plan map. That designation is primarily intended for mid to high level commercial uses, but that designation also includes mixed use and multi-residential use as a supporting use in that area. I've got a whole list of goals, objectives, and actions, almost 2 pages long in the written staff report. I'm not going to go through all of those. I pulled out all the ones that I thought were most relevant for you to consider in this application. And it would be important for you to talk about these in more detail when you're doing your deliberation after the close of the public hearing. So those are on pages 2 and 3 of the staff report. We did solicit and get some input on this project or on this conditional use permit application from other departments in the city. The Public Works Department, it's quoted in there what they said. I'll read it. If over 2,000 square feet of newly created impervious area on an on-site stormwater management system is required, a traffic generation statement is needed. Future discussion is needed on the condition of the open stormwater channel and installation of a bridge of this open channel. An engineering study design is needed to determine if a culvert can be used. Frontage improvements along 22nd Street, modified to 11.5 feet from the center line to back of rolled curb and 5-foot sidewalks. There would be a variance for a wider driveway needed on parcel north of canal. Staff recommends a variance approval because of the existing backing into the right of way nearest the corner will be eliminated, and it is a low volume dead end road. Public Works does not oppose a 54-foot driveway along 22nd Street. As a concession, the applicant is removing 4 existing non-compliant stalls near the intersection of 22nd and East Main. The engineer does not oppose the CUP. Fire department says fire code compliance shall be determined through the building development process. They have no issues with the CUP. CUP is conditional use permit. So this property is about a ½ an acre in size. It's on the northeast corner of East Main and 22nd. It's in a mixed use neighborhood. I already mentioned it's in the light industrial zone. Transitional housing villages are explicitly listed as a permissible use in the light industrial zone through the conditional use permit approval process, which is what we're going through right now. Let's see here. So this transitional housing village is proposed for 12 young adults, housing for 12 young adults aging 18 to 20 years of age. The facility would have an on-site live-in host and be in operation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The facility is proposed to have 5 staff members, usually not all working on site at the same time. It would contain an individual sleeping units for guests, i.e. residents. The sleeping units would be prefabricated structures that would be required to obtain building permits. They would each contain a full bathroom, but no kitchen. They're proposed to be 10-foot wide and 20-foot long, except an ADA compliant unit that would be 10-foot wide and 28 feet long. There'd be a 6-foot tall site obscuring fence around the perimeter of the property, except along the street frontages where it's required to be only 4 feet tall for sight distance. There would be covered bike racks for residents, an outdoor recreation area, and perimeter and interior shade trees planted. And there would also be a security fence with double gates at the main entry into the sleeping unit area. One gate would have a key code for resident access. The other would have a Knox box for fire department. So staff reviewed the application for all the standards that are applicable, and the application complies with all the standards with the exception of the parking backing out onto the street. So that's what's being asked to be waived by the Planning and Zoning Commission. There is a facility management plan required for these types of facilities. That's supposed to have a safety and security plan. That's to be developed in coordination with the police department. Police department has tentatively approved that plan, but it's not finalized. So you've got relevant criteria and standards to consider for this application. They're numbered 1 through 5 in the staff report, and we want to keep all those in mind as you're hearing the public testimony. And that's my summary.
So, can I ask Joel a question? Just, so would the variance requirement, would that just be done with the city department, or would that require the applicant to come back to planning and zoning for that variance approval?
No, it's going to be part of your consideration as part of the conditional use permit approval. You're allowed to do that as part of a conditional use permit. So this would be the only time they would have to deal with that.
Okay.
Any additional questions for Joel? Thank you, Joel. I'll call you back. You never know.
Okay, sure.
So, next up would be Michelle King, our applicant, who will be providing testimony and or presentation. And you name, city, and knock yourself out. Let's do it.
Awesome, thank you. Just pulling up my presentation, so we'll get it all shared and all of that good stuff. I brought my stopwatch so that I don't run long, because those who know me can know I can be a little long-winded. So I'm starting that now. While we get that up, my name is Michelle King and I live in Lewiston. Lived here most all of my life. I am the president and co-founder of the LC Valley Youth Resource Center. And so we're here today to if this works. Aha, Eureka. Okay, now we're going to test the clicker. We're in business, folks. Okay, we're here today to talk about the village. So thank you for your consideration. I apologize for the mountain of paperwork, but I hope that you've had a chance to review it. And I do hope that in this process that there is an opportunity for you to surface questions before the closing statements. The Youth Resource Center, let's just focus on this a little bit. Our key focuses are a safe place where local youth are valued. We currently serve Lewiston and Clarkston students ages 12 to 17 with 3 programs. We have a drop-in program, afternoons, overnight accommodations for up to 16 kids, and a safe teen assessment center. Last year, we served 292 individual local youth, provided over 4,000 meals, and provided almost 700 nights of shelter to 41 Lewiston and Clarkston displaced teens. We've been open 4 years next week, and we've been invited into this important moment when a child decides between life and suicide 43 times. It is by far the hardest, coolest thing I've ever done. But we do get a front row seat to the miracles. Challenge that we've run into is what happens when our kids turn 18. We can host 12 to 17-year-olds, but you can't put a legal adult in the same room with a 12-year-old. And so we have tried many solutions, including hosted families, community partners, launching them before they're ready to launch, and all have failed miserably. So now we did more research to see what's working elsewhere. National statistics showed that 1 in 10 young adults ages 18 to 25 were homeless last year in the United States. 43% of Idaho's foster youth age 19 experienced homelessness in the past 2 years. That's almost half of our foster kids were homeless before their 20th birthday. And most chronically homeless adults became homeless as teenagers. So for those who don't know, the last point in time count for our region showed that 25% of the homeless population in Idaho outside of the city of Boise were children. If we don't protect these children and provide them opportunities to become healthy adults with housing, then we run the risk of them becoming chronically homeless adults in life. So why does this young demographic have such a difficulty? Well, there's limited rental inventory. They don't have credit. They don't have rental history, not enough for first, last, and deposit. And many of them are still in their senior year of high school. If I owned a rental, I would pick the 40-year-old doctor who's going to be there 3 days a week, not the 18-year-old that's going to forget the pizza in the oven. So we are building the village. It's an entire program designed specifically for this demographic. Our goal is to sustainably break the cycle of homelessness in our community by facilitating life-changing opportunities for displaced local youth and young adults. So what is the village? It's housing for 18 to 20-year-olds, specifically designed for their unique needs. For example, anyone who has a toilet knows that at some point in your life they flood. But for a kiddo who doesn't know what to do or how to sanitize such things without adult influence, that can be quite an experience. We'll be there for those key first apartment moments. It's a gated community of 12 cottages, a host cottage, and an activity center. The priority placement in this program will be for current Youth Resource Center guests, active high school students, and/or youth exiting foster kids. We will only serve Lewiston and Clarkston youth ages 18 to 20. They must be going to school, working, or actively seeking full-time work. That doesn't mean, oh yeah, I applied online. No, that means sitting down with case managers who are like, this is how you complete that application. Let's do it together. Now we're going to do practice interviews. We're going to make sure you have the clothes for your interview. We're going to scrub your social media before you even apply because, right, these are the key things that this population really needs us to come alongside them in that journey. They must be working on goals and they must be driven and wanting sustainable generational change. This is not a place for lollygaggers. I don't know how they're gonna spell that in the minutes, but yes, this is for those who want to do the work. They must also meet this criteria. They must be working towards their self-identified goals. They will not be, we won't allow registered sex offenders or anyone convicted of a felony related to drugs or violence. They must agree to our safety policy and routine drug testing, and they must agree to program participation. Part of the participation is training. So in the management plan that you have a copy of, it listed all the specific classes that we're going to be doing, but here's a quick list of the subjects we're going to cover. Again, it's about really setting them up for healthy adulting. How to open mail, how to file your taxes, just key ingredients that this young population needs. Some of the rules. They aren't going to be 21, so they cannot have nicotine or alcohol, but we also won't allow cannabis or any other illegal drugs. Each cottage serves one, so they will only enter their own cottage, and they will be representing the village, whether they are on the property or off the property, and that will be part of the agreement that we come to. Safety is a key priority. Visitors will check in at the activity center, and they will not be allowed into the gated community. They must leave by 8 o'clock, and only participants, and if they have children, and employees will be allowed inside the fence past the moat. The moat comment will make more sense when we start talking through the pictures, but you saw the drainage. We just renamed it the moat because we needed a good name. We are passionate about being good neighbors. We will be good neighbors, but we will also teach our participants to do the same. And if a neighbor has a concern, we will have staff 24/7 who will be carrying a cell phone that neighbors can text or call if there's, if we need to be aware of a situation and to mitigate it. Again, I mentioned we'll have 24-hour staff. Our staff will be required to complete the Federal Family and Youth Services Bureau RITAC training that encompasses every subject you can imagine. I think there's 83 classes that we complete. We'll have a team of a case manager who is the leader, who's full-time, and 2 other case managers that are full-time. They will be rotating to stay overnight so that everybody gets a vacation. And then we'll have a home ec specialist to do the grocery shopping and cooking classes and teaching on smart shopping and that kind of thing, and a maintenance person. But those last 2 positions will be split between our current location. So it's 5 individuals, but an equivalent to 4 full-time employees. Case plans, will it establish plans for them to move to safe, secure, stable, permanent housing before their 21st birthday with a strategic plan to make that happen, like steps to execute that. Also make sure they get their birth certificate, social security card, state issued ID, medical records, credit reports, all of those adulting documents that you must have to be functional and to vote, frankly. Okay, not the credit reports, but right. But they're all very important to have. And then they will be, the case plans will also include how they're going to execute their education and employment goals and track how they're training, coming along in our training program. So where are we doing this? So as Joel mentioned, the zones are M1, M2, C4, and C6 that you could do a transitional housing village in. And that sounds like a lot of property. A few years ago, we did an extensive study of said property. If you'd like to play in the pivot table, I'm happy to share it with you. But we learned that there is very limited opportunity available for this, where it's going to fit in the neighborhood or even just exist. And even more limited in land that isn't completely developed. For example, Burger King, the old Burger King by Albertsons meets the zone piece, but it's a Burger King. You couldn't put a village there. So when we learned that the United Way property was being sold, we were super excited and we're very thankful for this opportunity. Joel showed this picture. You can see here that we have the moat. Aha, I have my laser pointer. I'm gonna try and show you. Okay, it's not reaching over there, but The moat is the piece that separates from the United Way property to the city lots. And that will kind of be our designation of community space where you can have visitors. And then behind the moat is the fenced off private, you have to live there or work there to be there. And here are some pictures, much like what Joel showed you. These are just pictures of the moat. The city has volunteer trees that are coming up in their drain that we're gonna work together to figure out, and the fence needs a little love, but we'll be putting up the 6-foot privacy fence all along this. And then again, this is where the cottages will go. As of a week ago, there was a camper and somebody staying there, so, yeah. So this is what it looks like. It shows, you can see the moat is in green. The United Way building is outlined in purple. The light blue line in the front is the 4-foot fence. And then the dark blue line around the back is the 6-foot privacy fence. As for fencing along the storm drainage, part of that is gonna be what we determine with the folks that have to manage that drain. I don't wanna put a fence in their way. So that's part of what we're doing there. But you can see we've got all these little huts. This one closest to the entrance is the ADA hut. There is consideration about distance from like the laundry and so much that we're trying to figure out. And that's why we only have one ADA. If we could evolve it, that would be something we would consider, is having more than one. But this is the parking where they would be backing out into the street. And then this is the existing parking. This is the staff hut, so they can see everybody that's coming and going. And then there will be cameras, and the cameras will be accessible on the staff phone, which is what we do for the youth center right now. So key highlights, gated community, single point of entrance, which is per code, privacy fence, surveillance cameras, and security lighting. So this is an example of the vinyl fence with the security lighting. We have no intention of doing like industrial fluorescent lights. We want it to be very homey and welcoming to our participants. Again, just kind of showing more of that fence line. And this is what one of the huts looks like. We call them cottages. But it's just a bedroom and a bathroom with a shower. And the participants will be responsible for keeping these clean. There's the ADA model. And again, back out to the whole view so that we can zoom in on the currently known as the United Way building, but will be our activity center. And this will be our commercially licensed kitchen and laundry area, classroom, and single serve bathrooms. There is a basement, but it's going to be used for storage. So in your proposal or in your process, you have to answer these 5 wonderful questions. And I thought I would help you fill in these blanks by going through them specifically. So you want to take pictures so you can just write. That's the way I do presentations. So avoiding nuisances, that's the first question. 1, light pollution, we're going to use the warm lights. And noise, the quiet hours will be from 10 to 6 a.m. Also individual cottages, we won't allow, like if somebody's playing video games in their cottage, you shouldn't be able to hear that outside that cottage. So it definitely won't make it off the property because each individual's entertainment will be considered individual entertainment within their space. Entertainment that's in common areas will be appropriate, and that really would be limited more to over by the United Way building. We have an outdoor area that we're required to have. We'll have a fire pit over there, and that will probably be more where everybody kind of gathers and does things. Nuisances, litter. So guests will be, or participants will be picking up after themselves and appropriately disposing of waste and such. Vehicles. So it's important to note, this population don't have cars. They don't have driver's licenses because you can't get a driver's license without a legal guardian. There's just a whole bunch of barriers to that. And you have to have your social security card and your birth certificate, and you can't order those. And it's quite the fiasco. So most of these folks are going to be using bicycles, longboards, or walk between places. But if they do have a car, they'll have to have a valid driver's license and current insurance, and the car must be functioning and legally drivable. So that's one of the things we're going to be doing to mitigate nuisances, is make sure that they're all nice. My font got munched, so I apologize. This is a little bit squinty. Public necessity. I am very fortunate in my role at the Youth Resource Center to get to be in the lives of kids who want something different, who really want generational change. And it is my opinion and experience that we have a responsibility as a community. When someone really wants to rise above child abuse or neglect or abandonment, that we come alongside them and provide them those opportunities. This is absolutely a public necessity. Harmony with the area. So our Realtor wrote some very eloquent words that you're welcome to repurpose. The bottom line is that this well-managed village will enhance property values. And so the surrounding area already experiences an 8 to 10% lower valuation compared to similar neighborhoods, primarily due to a high percentage of rental properties and a lack of cohesive development. The introduction of this tiny house village fills a much needed niche and stabilizing the rental market. In fact, if this development is poised to elevate the overall value of nearby properties. And again, more words. So it is in harmony with the neighborhood in that sense. Environment, public safety, and public health. We are an incredible partner with the police department. We spend a lot of time working together to protect kids. And our safety plan is not fully developed because we wanted to know if we were going to be able to keep the fence and the parking where they are. And then we will work with the police department to finish developing, unfortunately, you have to plan for active shooter situations and those kinds of things. So once we know for sure that this is the plan, then we'll be sitting down with the police department's leadership again to confirm that it all complies with the latest and greatest strategies for such things. And as far as comprehensive plan goals, thank you, Joel, for pulling these out of the new plan because there's a lot to take in there. It's not just one or two, it's 3 pages of places where this aligns with the new comprehensive plan goals. The village will sustainably break the cycle of homelessness in our community by facilitating life-changing opportunities for displaced local youth and young adults. Thank you for your consideration.
This, I think, is an opportunity for commissioners to make you stand there longer.
Okay.
And pose some questions that they have after reviewing the documentation and after the presentation. So I'm gonna open the floor to our commissioner. Does anyone have? Yes, Kathy.
Madam Chair, okay, so you said that the residents will be responsible for keeping their places tidy. Will they have timely inspections or how is that going to happen?
Yes, absolutely. So our case managers will be doing life with these young adults. And in that it will be, weekly going in and being like, okay, not only is your place clean, but let's make sure that you're washing your bedding on a regular basis. This is how you use a pumice stone on your toilet if you've ignored it too long. Let's not get to that spot. Let's make sure all of your laundry is getting washed so that you're, having appropriate hygiene, just all of those things. So I can't say it will be every Tuesday, but it definitely will be a consistent involvement in such things. Yes.
My other question is, you have this moat there and it's got a fence. How are you going to build a bridge across the moat?
Well, I wanted to, because we're doing the village, we had cottages, and so I proposed a drawbridge, but the city said no. Because safety and design and many things. So at this point, with that drain being in the state that it's in, we're gonna fence around it and work with them to make sure they have the access they need and can get that tree out of there and that sort of thing. There is talk that someday it may be better to put a culvert or
Just this.
the pipe underneath the ground and make it level. And at that point, obviously, we would have to do some landscaping appropriate to that. But as for now, the goal would just be to make sure that that is secure and safe for all parties involved. But that the city has the access they need.
So my biggest concern, I had kids that age at one time. And a son that ended up going to the military, which was the best thing that could have ever happened because he was very immature at this age. When you have police show up in your driveway at 1:30 in the morning, their lights flashing, it's time to do something different. So how are you going to get kids that know that this is a privilege and not a right to be here?
Well, I think that's where we have the advantage of them coming to us through the youth center, because a lot of, when you meet a kiddo at age 12 in the 6th grade, they're pretty influenceable, and there's a great opportunity to really build some relationships there. For the youth that we meet as they're older, we'll be working with the school to identify the best candidates for success in this program. This is not a low barrier solution. You apply and are selected. I think our inventory is gonna be way too low to just take, or we're not gonna have enough space to take everybody. We're only gonna take the ones that really want it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a couple, one is a clarification, so everybody knows if they don't, when you're in the foster system and you reach 18, you get the boot and that's it. So, that's something I learned not terribly long ago, but yeah, so this is an opportunity to stop that. You said that it's a high barrier and you, spoke earlier about, working closely with the police department. That should make everybody feel good about it. And then, so I guess this really pertains to a routine, and you've described a little bit of it. But, the 10 to 6, I know you have a routine at the Youth Resource Center already. So they're not just lying around in their pods, they're up at 6 and breakfast, and they have a regimen, a routine, not unlike the, going to the military, that kind of stuff. So that's just really what I had right there. Thank you.
So, and again, we'll make it about each kiddo. One kid who would be a awesome candidate for this program, he works 3 to 11 at St. Joe's every night. So, he's in swing shift, so for his trainings and classes, we'll probably do those in the afternoon. Expect him to get up and participate in the day at a reasonable hour. But yes, yeah, this is not a place to just sit on your laurels and think you're gonna sleep in all day. That's not what we're doing.
Madam Chair, a couple questions that I had. So in knowing that you're gonna be fencing off the moat, are there going to be like sidewalks on like 22nd Street from the entrance going around to the front of the building? Because I'd hate to see kids stepping out into the street.
Yes, absolutely. So when we take away the 4, I wish I had kept my PowerPoint up, and I'm sorry that I didn't. But when we take away the 4 parking spots that don't meet code, that is going to be a sidewalk, and there will be a path that goes along. Basically, you'll go out the back door of the United Way building to a designated path to make your way around the moat and go right into the single point of entry.
Second question I have, and it kind of piggybacks off of what Kevin was talking about. So your plan is basically to pick up these kids from 18 to 20. What happens if you get a child who hits the age of 20 going on to 21 and they're not ready to launch?
So that's where, oddly enough, there are other partners that will be able to fill in that. It's really difficult for other homeless partners to take this younger population because their needs are so specific. But if they're approaching 21 and they're still not ready, then we can work with Sojourners Alliance, Family Promise of the Palouse, UGM. There's other resources when you're that old. We'll be partnering with. Hopefully it won't happen, but in the circumstance that it does, great question.
Last question. You're talking about going in and out of the back door of the current building. I know that the front of the current United Way building is ADA accessible. Is the rear of the building also?
It is not. So that would be the path for someone who cannot navigate stairs. Yes, they would go out the front, but there will be a fence there. So it's still a completely fenced space. It's just that it'll be a 4-foot fence instead of the 6-foot.
That's what I have.
Okay,
This may be more programmatic question. So you mentioned that the common area will be for guests. So I'm assuming by that the guests aren't allowed in the cottages?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. The case that we've discussed is the 18-year-old girl with a much older boyfriend. The much older boyfriend will not pass the moat. They will be allowed in a supervised common space. And that would be, yeah.
as a piggyback on that, my first understanding of the break between the public space, recreation hall and the cottages was that there would be means once in the front side of the moat, that they would have access directly from that across the properties and across the moat. And now what I'm hearing is they will have to exit to the street on 22nd and then code in to go into the living facility.
That is correct.
Okay.
We met the, oh, Joel, help me, I always call it the wrong thing, the Development Review Committee.
Yeah.
And when I proposed the drawbridge, it, well, they, yes, all of those things. So, it may be something we can consider and discuss, because obviously that would be ideal. You go out and just go across the property and stay in, but, I think the city needs to have, we need to have a longer conversation before we could implement that.
So I'm just thinking of a circumstance and this is where your knowledge of what you're intending comes in. Our 18-year-old female
Mhm.
is done with the day and now heading towards her own cottage. And she exits to 22nd, goes around the corner, plugs in her code, but in the meanwhile, older boyfriend is loitering and lurking. Does he enter with her and is there something in place that lets you all know that we happen to be letting in a little love fest?
That is a fantastic question. So, I'm gonna pull up a little visual aid. Sorry to those watching online, but, so this is the app that we use that allows us to keep an eye on what's going on, and this will be in the staff's pocket. And we have motion sensors. So when folks are coming and going, or the key is entered, it will ding ding, and you just look at it and make sure everybody is the right person that you expect. Yeah, and if not, it's recording. So, when someone decides to make unhealthy choices or test boundaries, then we're like, so, no. But there is a staff person there immediately to go knock on the door and be like, out. Yeah. Mhm.
So, are you and the leadership developing criteria? And I understand that it is individual by individual case. 3-strike rules jeopardizing your sanctuary and security.
So there are certain things that are showstoppers, compromising the safety of others. Game over. Again, we meet people where they are and we accept them as they are, but then we also, everybody gets to be safe. And our goal is to help you work towards achieving your goals. If you decide not to do that, then you decide not to be in our program. And so there's more on that in the management plan. But again, it will be each individual person, because our first conversation will be, how does this align with your goals? Where are we going? What's your plan? And then if we start to see that we're spinning out, then we're gonna be like, somebody else gets this cottage. Because we want people who really want change. Yeah.
So, Madam Chairman, I have another question. I'm just visualizing these little on here, and there's a lot of grounds around the cottage, grass or whatever to maintain. Who's taking care of all of that? Can they put their little chair outside and sit outside?
Yes.
What, address that
So,
for me.
Some of that is to be determined based on drainage, because that is a lower part in the city. So our civil engineers are gonna have to help us figure out if we need to have dry wells and French drains. These are new words to me. And how that's gonna look. But yes, we also will have that employee who is the facilities manager who, or maintenance person who will be mowing the lawn and pulling the weeds and that kind of thing. But yes, the concept is one, they will have a bike rack for their cottages, maybe a bike rack shared between two cottages, but covered bike racks, and then also, space to make it homey.
Any additional thoughts, questions popping in your head? Yes, Emily.
You mentioned that this would be for a resident, and a child if they had one. So there would be a plan to address teen pregnancy or.
Absolutely. We know that the best thing for that child is to really support the parent or parents, plural. And so we would utilize community partnerships to make sure that they have all the equipment that they need and parenting classes and services, and then also be registered to make sure that the child gets appropriate vaccinations and connected with medical, because we know that young child exams are a key ingredient to young children's health. And then also, if they are school age, it would be the McKinney-Vento Act, make sure a bus shows up and gets the kiddo to kindergarten, all of that kind of stuff. So yes, absolutely.
Also helping them, support them with access to WIC or
Yes,
other
yes,
state resources.
yes, yeah. Make sure they have plenty of formula and diapers and all of those important things. Yes, absolutely. And really parenting classes and education, because I think that's the biggest ingredient that young parents struggle to secure. Yes.
I do.
I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to call on you. Forgive me.
I guess that question kind of triggered another question. So if there is a couple in that age group with a kiddo, how do you address that situation?
So I would love to say that's a one size fits all, but I don't know that it is. Because, well, 18-year-old relationships are tumultuous. And then when you put a baby into the mix, it gets even murkier. So we would definitely make sure they had individual cottages, but maybe work with them on being able to stay in the same place so they can take turns getting up through the night. That's gonna be one of those where we're gonna have to be situational. Yeah. But I don't think they should just necessarily live together, because that won't necessarily improve their relationship.
I just have one more question. So I guess on that, the individual that enters at 18 doesn't necessarily have to stay until 20.
Correct.
When they are deemed okay and they feel comfortable going out into the world, they can leave.
Yes, when they're ready to launch, yes. And we will try to counsel them on what are wise decisions when you're ready to launch and when you're actually ready to launch, because most 18-year-olds think they're ready to launch long before they really
I
are.
knew it all at 18.
I did too. 18 and a half was a whole different story, but yes, exactly.
And that would also include financial, I think I read something in the packet too about financial planning and saving for first, last, and deposit, and making sure that they have those things in place.
Absolutely. First, last deposit, and enough for furniture that isn't made out of milk crates. Because milk crates are expensive now, right? But yes, exactly.
Okay. So not program specific, one of the questions that I thought about is obviously you were coming in front of this commission to line your ducks up prior to purchase of property. So ideally, your agency, the agency that you represent, or entity would own the entire layout, the cottages, the main house, and work with the city as far as the moat. Is that accurate?
So it's a unique property situation. In that the United Way building is eligible for purchase, but the land behind it is actually a surplus park. It is city-owned property. So what many communities, kind of one of the ways that this came about was I was doing research on how to do this, and what many communities are doing is the municipalities are actually doing long-term leases of their property to help facilitate affordable housing and transitional housing solutions. And so as this came about, I did reach out to our city and inquire if they would consider a long-term lease. Because once it's labeled surplus, then they can either do a long-term lease with someone or with an agency, or they can surplus and sell it in an auction. So we have an accepted offer on the United Way building pending approval of the conditional use permit. And we have worked with the city council to establish their willingness to go through the process of putting together the long-term lease on the land that is north of the moat.
So specifically the land that will be, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, please. Did I say that all backwards?
Jennifer Tangano, City Attorney. To clarify, Ms. King has received conditional approval from the City Council to enter into a lease contingent upon the outcome of the conditional use application. The property is not surplus at this time, but it has been determined that it's likely to be underutilized and subject to a lease. But the terms of that lease have not yet been discussed between the city or Ms. King.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yes. You have to love it when they bring in the exact right words for us.
That's what.
Yes.
Knows the best.
Okay, so at this time, we still have some things that are up in the air, but moving forward, it is your understanding that the oversight of the programs, the staff, the guests or residents, once the development is created, established, and the homes are present, and the colleges are present, that oversight like in terms and ownership and leadership lies within the leased terms. So the city has property, but it doesn't have. So it's a, what's the word? It would be on. Get there. So on the comprehensive plan, goals, we are talking about partnerships, community, public-private partnerships and for development, et cetera. And that would qualify this situation, correct? Incorrect.
Jennifer Tangano, City Attorney. So the city is limited in its public-private partnerships to those purposes for public purposes. So the city cannot, by the Idaho Constitution, enter into agreements that benefit a private purpose. So I don't know if your question is necessarily within the scope of the application that's currently before you. But based on the purposes and the organization that is the applicant, it's likely that the city council will find a public purpose for leasing the property. But that will ultimately be the city council's determination in a future date.
Thank you very much.
And if I may, that, if you can correct me if I misstate this, but it will be leased at current market rate. We will be paying for that lease and we will be a tenant on the property. Once all the details are through, pending approval.
You and I are both in trouble.
I know, I do it a lot.
Jennifer Tangano, City Attorney, and in case you're wondering why I keep stating my name is for the purposes of the record, but those terms have not yet been discussed at this point.
Correct.
Thank you. I think the commission is clear. There are no lease terms documented or discussed. Thank you for that clarification. Commissioners. Thoughts, feelings, happy hearts, what do we got? Anything? Michelle, I'm going to thank you for your presentation. You will have an opportunity following public testimony to revisit the podium and address concerns, questions, etc. So thank you at this time.
Thank you again.
Do we need to take a quick break before public testimony?
I do.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna take just a 2 or 3 minute break. Is that allowed?
Recess.
5-minute recess. Oh, see, formal terms, 5-minute recess. Everybody potty. Go.
They usually do like an intervention tonight, so, I don't know what they do.
Yeah, no, this is gonna be.
Just leave it run.
Yes. Yes.
We're not doing anything nefarious.
No, that would have automatically asked if there was anything
Yeah.
else. Got it. I have confidence, but they were- I mean, just bubbling away in the corners. Yeah,
Doing a five. They're water fountain. There you go, right in the backyard. Water fountain.
Yeah.
Do you have one that they can?
Yeah.
Jennifer, what was our starting time? I didn't say it.
6:07. Okay.
Then I use
Correct.
big house and I realized.
No, the 5-minute reset.
Oh, 7:07. They meant the public hearing.
So it's like, okay.
7:04.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's why I watch.
Making sure. Try to keep it especially for some like that 709. I'm gonna take advantage then.
It wasn't used me.
I'm just curious. if there's been-
Broke the seal, Gabe.
Be a bunch of groggy.
Said they're gonna run.
Kind of like Joe Weisman. I mean, background. They said, well, we shouldn't. No, I don't. $80 million.
Not even.
Certain area.
You, Heather, I know. I know how strong you are.
You should have chosen.
To have everything outside.
We all have our days.
That's, oh, let me tell you.
I'm sneaking, I'm cheating. Oh, but.
Just. I didn't use. And then you have the chair repeat when you reconvene people to the audience to remind them. Name calling. They said, well, I'll have her now. Sort it out. Sorry, I meant.
Let me get there. Wow.
Between the two of us, we've lost.
Wow. So was he just, did he lose some of the weight just because of post-surgery and like dietary limitations?
Okay, so.
Oh, gotcha. Was that part of the requirement for surgery? No.
That was part of it. Like that.
Sounds like that was only partially successful. though.
Having a little bit of.
Oh.
And I think
It actually works.
I lost a ton of weight.
Can't let her, I can't let her show me.
Right.
Yeah. I won't hold it against.
As I said, I'm not too proud.
I'm still waiting on, city attorney and, one commissioner. I think we're very close. Intended to, thank you. Yeah. I don't want to get my foot in my mouth quickly, so I do want Jennifer here so she can correct me. I need a lot of correction. Doing great. Oh, well, I don't have brain soup yet. It'll happen. Here we go. And Commissioner Kelly should be spoken in momentarily. So I would like to go ahead and get us started. So here he comes. So everyone has the opportunity to speak. Again, I'm going to, we're gonna end recess. All right, so back on record. I'm gonna again reiterate civility. Address the commission only. I would like the commentary within the audience, snorts, guffaws, and objections to statements to be kept internal. I would like it respectful. If you want a time at the podium to be respectful, please offer that to everyone else as well, even if you disagree with their statements. Use your time wisely when you come to the podium. But no, again, civility means no name calling, no cursing or swearing or accusations of sexual preferences. We're just going to keep it to the topic at hand if we can do that, please. We do have this support here from the Lewiston PD, and if it's beyond someone's ability to buckle it down, we will ask them to be escorted out. Thank you. Okay, so now is an opportunity. When you approach the podium, I'm going to ask you to state your name and the community in which you live. And we are going to do a 3-minute timer because we have a lot to get through today. So I will take the first community member. Welcome and thank you.
My name is Linda Glines. I live on 22nd Street, the street that's affected the most. We have concerns about the traffic. It is a dead end, and I'm at the very end of that dead end. And anybody that drives down that street uses my driveway to turn around, middle of the night and everything else. I understand these children aren't going to have, well, these young adults aren't going to have cars, but their friends are going to have cars and so forth. They're backing out on 22nd Street. That is a narrow street. Backing out is going to be congesting the beginning of that street. I have concerns because our water and sewer lines are 60, 70 years old. And I have been told by the city for the last 15 years, we are on the list to have them repaired. You are now fixing to add 12 additional toilets, 12 additional showers. They have to dig up my street, patch my street up every other year because their water or sewer line is broken. The street is a mess. It needs to be redone. They will not redo it until they do this, do the sewer line and the water line. I was told a month or two ago that we are on the list again, and maybe this fall, but I've gotten no confirmation back from anybody on that. So there's concern with infrastructure that runs down the street, the end of the street, up and down the street on both 22nd and 23rd Street with that. A lot of it. And I know it's dead end. They're saying it's low use, but you have no idea how many cars turn down that street thinking they can get down to the Dykeway. And how many cars go down the other street, 23rd, for the same reason. My next question is, that was a city park. It wasn't, low usage happened because those two streets had a whole bunch of drug and crime stuff going on. That's gone. That's been eradicated from those two streets. And the city just decided to quit taking care of that park. And it's my understanding that the Parks and Rec Commission needs to be able to designate it as lease or surplus to be sold And I do not believe that has happened. So maybe we want our park back. Maybe, you know, I think we need to have that looked at too. There is no green space down there that can be used. There are children and grandchildren living on these streets now. There are families back on these streets, rental or homeowner, it doesn't matter. There are families with children. That park was a nice park. My children used it. My grandchildren have used it. But since the city let it go into disrepair, people just use it to drive through and as a parking lot. I'd like to see it reestablished as a green space. The village, there is some zone Z4 property over behind the laundromat over there by Larry's Deli. Bigger acreage. She wanted to do 20 homes originally. She could do 30 or 40 homes on that property. And it's right by the city bus stop. We were told in her meeting that it was the only site available within the city. It is not. And that meets the criteria of that bus stop. I'm concerned about what happens when these young adults leave the property. They have rules to follow on the property. What happens when they walk off of that property? You know, what can they do up and down these streets? They're gonna be on foot, they're gonna be on bikes, they're gonna be on skateboards. You know, so I'm speaking for myself and I'm also speaking for everybody else that's going to speak and ones that aren't here. These are all the concerns that we have on this. And the context of it is our park. It was our park. The city designated it not worth taking care of because it doesn't have underground sprinkler systems and stuff and let it go. Now that the neighborhood is recovering, we want our green space back.
Thank you, or you have reached your 3 minutes. I appreciate their contribution. And our next speaker, and your name?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tricia Ban, and I live at 0150 23rd Street East, Main in Lewiston. I'm 66 years old now, and my mother bought our home in 1960 when I was 2 years old and raised my brother and I by herself. When we were growing up there was at least 30 kids on our street. Palillos, Davids, Whites, Records, Hearts, Rice's on one side, the Duns, the Riggers, Lois, an older lady that us kids would go to the store for, the Weavers, the Hydes, then us, Leona and Charlie Thomas, and the Flats. Then the old church on the corner that realistically should have been preserved as a historical site, as it was one of the first churches built in Lewiston. But that was torn down for progress, I guess. That park was some of the best memories growing up. It had a small baseball diamond and field, picnic tables, swing sets, merry-go-round, teeter-totters, water fountain to drink out of, and a small hill to sleigh ride down in the winter. We would have picnics, do our homework together, and play all day there. All of our parents on the block knew exactly where we all were because that was our playground. Now turn the page a few years later. A neighbor and his daughter came to you all about taking our park away because you wanted to put in a shelter then. But because you listened to them, the shelter didn't happen. I understood that the city would keep up the park for the kids here on East Main. Now I don't know what happened and changed, but part of our park was sold without our knowledge. And for the city to just let it go like it is, just isn't fair or right. I believe we can still have our little piece of green here in the East Main Park for our kids to enjoy. It wouldn't take that much to install a sprinkler system, maybe a little gazebo, picnic table, barbecue pit, and water fountains so our families can gather and make memories like I grew up making. Please give us our park back. Thank you.
Next speaker.
My name is Jennifer Squires. I live on 0204 22nd Street. So I have a couple of concerns, one of them being the water lines like Linda stated. You know, are there gonna be background checks on these children? How are we gonna know whether or not they're sex offenders, whether or not, you know, they've got a rap sheet. The property value is one of my concerns. That being a park, that raises our property value. If it was deemed not a park, it would lower our property value. And then something that I wanted to kind of ask you guys about and learn about. I know one of the arguments is that property values went up when the children's home was put in. Everywhere property values went up. So what did those property values go up versus within 100-yard radius? You know, was it the same? Was it different? Another thing is, if the kids come onto my property and destroy my property, who am I suing? Am I suing the child or am I suing the company? Another question is the biker parties. That is not a motorcycle repair shop. Sure, they fix their bikes there, but they throw huge block parties there. They cover the entire street. They close up parking basically because they're, you know, you can fit one vehicle through when they're throwing their parties. And that was my next concern is parking. When the bikers are throwing their parties, are they gonna steal the parking of the children? Are they gonna block them in? How is that gonna work? I think that was all of my concerns.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
My name is Bill Kessel. I live on 23rd Street. Commissioners, is that right? You know, I rise in protest mainly because of the permanent buildings being built on city Lewiston land, more specific Eastside Park. This program is being presented as an unprecedented, it's also one of the first villages built in the LC Valley. While there is a need, I'm not sure if the city of Lewiston can afford to take over 13 structures should the program fail. That means not only the buildings, but the utilities and recover all that back into the city somehow. Eastside Park has been neglected by the city ever since the 21st intersection was built. Before that, it was green. It was regularly watered and maintained, leaving me to think these buildings will fall into disrepair as well as the city, should the city be forced to take over the grounds. If this program was implemented on private ground and proven to be viable and sustainable, I might be in support. As it stands now, I believe the program relies on donations and grants to pay for utilities and the such. Donations and grants are not a reliable source of income by any means. And also, didn't have a chance to look at this, but how does this fit into your Parks and Open Space Master Plan of 2021? That's where I stand on this.
Thank you very much for sharing. Mike.
My name is Kat Glover. I also live on 23rd Street. And I have no notes. I'm just, out. First, I want to reiterate what Linda had said about that property behind Larry's. It is over an acre. And with her concern of housing these adults, she started out with 20, and then because of the restricted area, she only could do 12. So I think that would be worth for her benefit and the adults to look into, because she could house a lot more, have park an area for visitors, which would be probably unrestricted because it's not close to like any busy streets. And with the bus stop being on the same side, they don't have to cross that blind turn on 21st Street to get to the bus stop. And guests will not have to park behind El Sombrero, walk down that hill, you know how old they're gonna be, and cross that 21st Street. That's quite dangerous. So all that would be on one side, which I think would be beneficial for her program and all the adults. Also, I do have I've lived there for 8 years. When I first moved in, it was a beautiful green, and that was one of the reasons what sold me, because I am the house that is looking right at the park. I'm right behind that red building. And I enjoyed looking at that while I'm in the kitchen doing dishes. And now I do have a grandson, and it would be a joy to go out there. He's interested in soccer now, help him play soccer, show him how to do that, and just snows, he can sled down the little hill. And I think it would be beneficial for all the kids on the block to have somewhere to go where they could be safe and get to know each other, and it'd be good for interacting with each other as well as in school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're open to more speakers.
My name's Rick Towsley. I live here in Lewiston. Some of you know me. I used to be a city councilor, and we have been struggling with this issue for years. And at one point, we had a subcommittee looking into where we could find adequate space for a homeless shelter, first of all. And we came up with 1 or 2 locations that did not pan out. We still do not have that situation. This is something a little different. This is apples and oranges. And as far as I know, I don't think that the property that has been mentioned twice by other people is in fact, does it follow the criteria that the city requires for us to be able to even look at this? I'm currently on the board of the YRC also, so I'm very much involved with this. And I just want to, one of the things that comes up to me is I know everybody loves this quote that we want to give a hand up, not a handout. This is in fact a hand up to a very vulnerable population. People, children who are becoming adults who have never or rarely ever seen normal adulthood being modeled for them. This is an opportunity for them to make it out of that situation. The other thing, looking at Michelle's slideshow, is that the rules for these young adults coming into this community are much more difficult than most 18 to 20-year-olds who are still living at home. Absolutely. And so these are people who want to be good citizens. They're not on parole. They're not looking for a way for an easy lunch. They want to get above the surface. They're climbing out of a hole that many of them, they weren't the ones that dug the hole, but they want to get out. And it's a strict criteria for them to be able to follow through with it. When they finish their time here, they will have the ability to be active citizens of our community if they choose to stay. And they will have funds that will allow them to have a place to stay. These are important issues. I taught school for 39 years. And when you talk about fight or flight, which is what we talk about horses and other kinds of things, these are the issues that children, like the kids that are YRC, they are dealing with that constantly. This is part of how you get away from that. And that is by providing security for people to learn, to make it to adulthood. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time today to talk. Any more opinions in favor or against? Yes, please.
My name's Dick Goodson, and I just want to ask a couple questions. Are people being vented for being child molesters, chomos? I have grandkids that's gonna live right across the street from that place. I don't want my grandkids living across the street from a bunch of freaks. I mean, people that do that kind of stuff. Another question I have is the city, what's the city involved in this as far as payment wise, buying wise? you know, are the taxpayers gonna be paying for this? Like for property tax, I know they're trying to do another property tax again. Are we gonna be paying for it? Or somebody else is paying for this? I mean, I have 5 grandkids that are gonna live right directly across the street from it. You know, and then I have property down the block. If they wanna put homeless shelter in there, they got a building there. I got a building down there they can erect and put a homeless shelter down there, or whatever they do, whatever kind of shelter they want to put in. It's out of the way, it's off Main Street, it's a huge piece of property. I mean, I don't want my grandkids living next door to a bunch of homeless people, whether young, old, whatever. I just don't want it. Thank you.
Mike?
My name's Keith. I live in the neighborhood.
Your last name, please?
Watson. And I live in that neighborhood. And I see lots of people coming and lots of people going. And I think that the community should put a park back there. There's grandchildren I see going up and down. There's no place for people to go anymore. Everybody keeps taking things and building stuff. What about what used to be? I have a brother that's a highly decorated Marine, a Navy veteran, runs a nuclear submarine for the Navy. He's been there 45 years. He has children. And when he comes and visits my 90-year-old mother, and he comes to visit me, the park is only a few houses away. We don't have to go places, and we don't have to make appointments. We don't have to make reservations. That the park used to be green. There used to be people that took care of it. Should be that way again. I'm against this. This is the biggest mess up that the city's gonna allow on a park. This is not right. I don't mind helping people. I like to help the homeless. I normally feed them. I go out of my way. I'll take my shirt off my back to help somebody if they need it. But the city doesn't need to put that system there. It's gonna hurt everybody in the neighborhood, especially the people that live in the neighborhood. I don't care about their agenda, their grants. Grants run out, nothing's forever, but parks are. And they've been something of the United States since the United States has been built. Our park system, please, whatever you do, don't take that away from us or any of the people. It's wrong.
If we have.
There's another place that they could go.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your. If we have no more willing speakers, in-house, we do have apparently a plethora of, write-ins, call-ins, et cetera, that need to go on record, which means we will be listening to those as they are read out loud. And this is your last call at this time before we begin that process. Okay, we will proceed. Thank you.
The first one is from the Chaz Clinic, Casey Heimgartner and Aaron Wilson. Dear Zoning Commission members, Chaz Health would like to formally express our support for the LC Valley Youth Resource Center proposed village project to meet the needs of young adults in the community. Homelessness. Chaz Health has a long appreciated the resource center strength-based approach to meeting the needs of most vulnerable youths across the Lewis Clark Valley. We strongly support the project and its focus on sustainability, breaking the cycle of homelessness and the young adults through a focused, supportive, and results-focused approach as a federal qualified health center, with clinics currently serving in the Lewis Clark Valley, including those facing housing insecurity and other social drivers of health. Chaz Health looks forward to the important role this project can play in improving the health of young people and setting them up for future health and productive lives. We look forward to continuing to work with the Resource Center, the village, and other community partners to eliminate homelessness in the community and to increase access to the service that improve equity. I have Jim Rader from Behavioral Health and Callie McPhee. And they both say the same thing. Dear City of Lewiston, please approve the conditional use permit for Lewis Clark Valley Youth Resource Center Village Project. This is major assistance for youth who need support, assistance, and opportunities for their personal development and also establishing their health relationships. We support Michelle King, manager of the LCVYRC, and her great work for youth in our region. Please help her and her team strengthen their services for youth. Thank you in advance for your support of the conditional use permit for LCVYRC Village Project. Randy Ford, President and CEO of the Idaho Food Bank. Dear Lewiston Planning and Zoning Commissioners, on behalf of the Idaho Food Bank, I'm writing to express our strong support to the LC Valley Youth Resource Center's Village Facility Generation Change Project. The initiative will provide crucial resources and life skills training to displaced young adults, helping them navigate the challenges of adulthood and build a foundation for future success. At the Idaho Food Bank, we are deeply committed to addressing food insecurity and promoting healthy, thriving communities across Idaho. We recognize that the housing stability, food security, and access to education are interconnected issues that significantly impact a person's ability to lead a healthy and fulfilling life. The Village Facilitating Generational Change Project aligns with our mission to provide these essential supports to young people at a critical time in their lives. By focusing on practical skills such as meal planning, smart grocery shopping, and financial literacy, this program will empower participants with the tools they need to make informed decisions about their health and well-being. This in turn helps to reduce food insecurity and encourages the development of healthy habits that can have a lasting impact on the community. We are particularly encouraged by the emphasis on serving displaced youth, including those transitioning out of foster care and those still in school. These young people face unique challenges, and the comprehensive support offered by the Village program will help to bridge gaps in resources and create opportunities for long-term success. The Idaho Food Bank is proud to support this important work and looks forward to positive outcome it will generate for the youth of the community as a whole. We believe that by working together, we can help create a future where Idahoans have a resource they need to thrive. Thank you for your time and dedication to your community and your time in reading our letter of support. Please feel free to reach out if there are any questions or clarification needed regarding this letter of support. Vanessa Schneider. Dear members of the Planning and Zoning Department, I am writing to express my strong support for the Village, a project facilitated by the LC Valley Youth Resource Center. While I live in Clarkston, I work in Lewiston. As some people, as someone who has directly benefited from the services provided by this incredible organization, I can personally attest to the profound impact they have on at-risk youth in our community. The Village will play a critical role in supporting young adults who are aging out of the current resource available to them. These young people often find themselves without the necessary life skills to navigate adulthood successfully and without intervention. Many are at serious risk of becoming homelessness. The Village aims to bridge this gap by providing essential life skills, training, support, and guidance, offering these young adults a much-needed leg up in their life. My own experiences with the LC Valley Youth Resource Center has been nothing short of transformative. My daughter, who is struggling with mental health issues and having a very difficult time in general, found respite and resource through the center. It provided her with a safe and supportive environment during a challenging time in her life. It also provided respite for me, and I knew she was in a safe, caring environment. I firmly believe that the Village will extend the same level of support to even more adults, young adults, helping them transition into adulthood and with confidence and hope. The work of the LC Valley Youth Resource Center is crucial in preventing homelessness among our youth and ensuring that they have the tools they need to succeed. The Village will be a vital addition to our community, and I urge you to approve this project, which will be lasting and positive impact on the lives of so many vulnerable young people. Thank you for your time and consideration. I have Beth Hawker. To whom it may concern, the purpose of this letter is to express my strong support for the Village Transitional Living Program, which has shown dedication to change within the Lewis-Clark Valley. I have witnessed firsthand the positive impact of the Lewis-Clark Valley Youth Resource Center on many young lives. My name is Beth Hawker, and I work for the LCV Youth Resource Center as a case manager. To work for an organization that is dedicated to bring a positive impact to youth is important to me. I was a homeless teenager, and if I had the access to LCV Youth Resource Center, it would have greatly improved my well-being during my teenage years. The Transitional Living Program can help provide support and guidance for young adults as they navigate through the challenges of becoming independent through this program. They can learn valuable coping skills and gain access to the necessary resources in a safe and supportive environment. I believe this program can help bridge the gap between dependence and independence, allowing young adults to strive and reach their full potential. Homelessness among young adults is a complex and social program that is often, a social problem that is often influenced by various factors. These may include family conflict, issues with identity and self-awareness, complications in school or education, substance use, pregnancy, parenthood neglect, domestic violence, and abuse within the home. These challenges can make it difficult for young adults to maintain stable housing and contribute to a larger issue of homelessness. In addition, many young people are facing difficulty to find stable employment and access education, making it difficult for them to afford housing. This is further worsened by the fact that many have never been taught financial skills such as budgeting, which makes it harder for them to manage their money more efficiently. Those who have been involved in child welfare, foster care, and the juvenile justice system are especially at risk of becoming homelessness due to a lack of support and resource. Young adults who experience trauma before and after becoming homeless are at risk for developing mental health or substance use disorders. This can lead to a cycle of homelessness and dysfunction, mirroring the environment they grew up in. We must provide a strong support system for these individuals, offering them a chance to break the cycle and improve their lives. We should strive to do something new and innovative, to create positive changes for young people who have never had a voice or a chance. I experienced domestic violence, addiction, and unstable home life in my childhood, jumping from shelter to shelter, hotel to hotel, or couch to couch. If I have not met certain people in my life who showed me a healthy love and support, I would have become a statistic. Without the guidance and help of these who believe in me, I may have fallen into the same cycle of violence and addicted instead. I was able to break free and create a better life for myself. The Village Project focuses on empowering young adults by giving them some control over their lives. Where not every young adult will fit into the guidelines, the project recognizes that each individual has a unique journey and encourages them to strive for a positive change. The approach promotes personal growth and self-determination among the youth, creating a supportive and inclusive community. It would be great if this support could be provided in our valley. It's time to support young people who have never experienced support. Lisa Martin, dear City of Lewiston, please approve the conditional use permit for Lewis-Clark Valley Youth Resource Center Village Project. We desperately need this type of service for our young adults. If you can provide them with a resource, services, and above all, positive relationships, we are intervening as these youths are in need of our community support. Michelle King is a champion in our community and has done great with the work for the LCVYRC. I work with Michelle in the capacity of Housing Subcommittee member for Regional 2 Behavioral Health Board. Michelle does her homework. She and her team need our community support. Thank you in advance for your support and willingness to consider the conditional use permit for LCVYRC Village Project.
Is that it?
No.
Oh. Carry on.
Thank you. To whom it may concern, I wholeheartedly endorse the Village Transitional Living Program and am confident and its positive and impact on the LC Valley community. Having witnessed the transformative work of the Lewiston Clarkston Valley Youth Resource Center and changing lives and providing teens with the opportunity to thrive, I firmly believe in the value of the village. My name is Charlotte Hill, and I work as a direct care staff member at the LCVYRC. I am also a proud member of the Youth Active Action Board, where I actively advocate for homeless youth across Idaho State. A few years ago, I was abandoned by my adoptive mom at the LCVYRC when I was just 17. The staff there took me in, cared for me, and helped me thrive, shaping me in the person I am today. I am living proof of the profound impact that a supportive environment can have on a young person's life. Because of my personal experience, my professional role, and my advocacy work, I can confidently say that the Transitional Living Program will bring significant benefits to those in service. Those it serves. The initiative is crucial because it provides safe and stable housing for 18 to 20-year-olds who are experiencing homelessness. This support is vital for young adults as it offers them a secure environment where they can focus on education, employment, and building a stable future without the constant stress of finding shelter. Supporting this program will lead to increased stability and opportunities for young adults who are experiencing homelessness, which will greatly benefit not only these individuals, but also the entire community. By providing housing and support services, we can help young people build a foundation for a better future, reducing long-term homelessness and fostering a healthier, more supportive community environment. I am proud to endorse the Village Transitional Living Program and fully support its mission to provide young adults with the resources and stability they need to succeed. This program is more than just a temporary solution. It is a critical investment in the future of our youth and our community. I urge you to consider the long-lasting positive impact this program will have and to support it wholeheartedly. Thank you for your time and consideration. This one is from Wendy Geiger. Dear Lewiston City Council, I am writing to express my full support for the establishment of the tiny home village in Lewiston, Idaho, specifically designed to provide a stable living environment for 18 to 21-year-olds. Beyond the immediate benefits of providing safe and affordable housing, this initiative offers significant advantages for our community as a whole. Studies have shown that investing in youth housing can lead to improved economic outcomes by providing a stable foundation. Young adults are better equipped to pursue education, employment, and financial independence. Enhanced health and well-being. Access to safe and affordable housing has profound impact on physical and mental health. Strengthen social connections. A tiny home village fosters a sense of community and belonging. A tiny home village would also offer a crucial opportunity to support these young adults in overcoming the trauma they may have experienced. By providing a safe and supportive environment, we can empower them to rebuild their lives, develop coping mechanisms, and pursue their personal goals. Investing in their well-being will not only benefit them individually, but also enrich our community. By providing a safe and supportive community, it would enable these young adults to continue their education, pursue vocational training, and build the foundations for a successful future. Moreover, living in a community with peers facing similar challenges and staff that have already built trust with would foster a sense of belonging and camaraderie, rather than isolating them in shelters that are 90 miles or more out of town. They would be close to the social connections and support systems they were able to establish while at the Youth Resource Center. Their 18th birthday would not be a date that ends their education at Clarkston or Lewiston High School and begins their education on the streets because of no longer having a safe haven. By providing a stable and supportive environment, we can help these young individuals overcome adversity and achieve their full potential. Thank you for your time and consideration. Megan Comstock, City of Lewiston, please approve the conditional use permit for the village project. This project is a must-need service that could bring about generational change. Too many youths age out of a broken system that simply does not offer the support and training required to become a productive member of society. The village will provide an opportunity to empower individuals while providing the wraparound support. Michelle King is phenomenal advocate for some of our most vulnerable in our community. Jamie Simpson. Hello, my name is Jamie Simpson. My team provides service agency functions for House Idaho Collaborative, which is a continuum of care for all of Idaho except Ada County. We have recently received a planning grant to bolster coordination among those agencies who work with Idaho youth who are homelessness or at risk of homelessness, and are excited for the much needed housing option LC Valley and their new village project would bring. Youth, especially those transitioning out of foster care, have a much higher chance of experiencing homelessness, which can become chronic if they experience other barriers to employment or housing. Providing a safe option for youth in the city area to ease into permanent housing with support and critical to help stem the increase in homelessness in the area. I'd like to offer my support and encouragement to Lewiston in providing a conditional use permit for the village project. Then I have one that I did not get to print out. Dear Planning and Zoning Board, I am writing to express my strong support for the conditional use permit application for the LC Valley Youth Resource Center regarding the village housing project. The village project is necessary initiative and a successful execution would satisfy an urgent need in our community. As stated in the 2024 strategic plan under prioritizing considerations on page 6, LU.2.1, it states, diversify possible housing options, ensure that a variety of types, scale, and density appropriate housing can be constructed throughout Lewiston, promoting neighborhoods that cater to residents of all incomes, ages, family structures, and cultures. This project will provide a safe and supportive environment where young individuals can learn essential life skills, further their journey towards economic independence and long-term well-being. Many of the individuals who could be served are people with disabilities under the ADA, a group that is often underserved in our community. By offering housing and specialized service tailored to their unique needs, the Village Project will play a vital role in helping these young people reach their full potential. The proposed location at 2207 East Main Street is ideal as it offers convenient access to the public transit and is less than 5 to 10 minute bus ride to the community center, the high school, LCSC, the downtown business district, and many services they will likely access. The proximity will enable residents to easily access the services they need and engage with their broader community. I strongly urge the planning board, zoning administrator, to approve the conditional use permit for the village housing project. The initiative represents a significant opportunity to make a lasting impact on the lives of at-risk homeless young adults, including those with disabilities, and to contribute to more inclusive and supportive community. Thank you for your consideration, this important project. Delene Cliff.
Is that the end of them? Okay. So next, we're going to give Michelle King an opportunity to come back to the podium and address the concerns to the best of her ability. So please stay tuned and allow her to do that. Okay.
Thank you again for making it a long night of service. Difficult to take notes and then connect your thoughts. So forgive me, this is an impromptu. I'm just going to kind of check through some of the concerns that were brought up. Initially, when we began discussing this, we did discuss 20 cabins or 20 cottages. When we did the spacing on the land allotted, that's how we got to the 12. But as we developed the program and the case manager services, we found that that was going to be a much better alignment for workload for folks. So we downsized to the 12 intentionally. That's just going to be a much better fit for that wraparound doing life together. We have looked at many other parcels of land. They do not meet all the zoning codes. You guys saw how many pages I submitted that went into the specific criteria around the tiny house village, and I can cite all of it, but I won't. You've already read it. And this is it. Be quite honest, this is it. There was concerns about our funding sources and what would happen if the village wasn't successful. So let's kind of go through a few things. First of all, the Youth Resource Center operates 100% debt-free. We initially purchased the building that we have with a CDBG grant from the city of Lewiston for the down payment. A year later, Idaho Housing came in as a partner and bought the equity, the outstanding equity, and paid off our mortgage. Our hope is to do something very similar, not with the city down payment, but with partnerships to make sure that we can continue to operate debt-free. We have been awarded a CDBG grant from the city of Lewiston for terraforming to move the dirt to make the land the way it needs to be while we put in the infrastructure for sewer and so on and so forth. Again, that's also pending the approval of the conditional use permit. That is not local money. Those are not local property tax dollars. That is federal HUD money that the city is awarded that then is allocated out for different community development projects. And so that's where that funding came from. And again, we will never see that money. That money goes straight to, like, the checks will be written to the people doing the work. As far as other funding sources, well, let me just stay with property taxes because we know that's a local hot button and I want to make sure that your assets are covered in these details. This land is already all zoned to not, or already ineligible for paying property taxes. So we're not going to be shifting the property tax burden in the community in any way because this is all either city land or nonprofit land. So it's already not paying property taxes. But we also won't be operating on any local property taxes. Our funding comes from, well, we've recently been awarded funding from the Twin County United Way, which is through their Community Impact Fund and local donations. We have been awarded the Lewis Clark Healthcare Foundation, which is the equity from when the hospital was sold and made for profit. They do grants out of that. We are supported by the federal government as part of their runaway and homeless youth initiatives because they are heavily invested in providing sustainable change at this young age because the research shows that it prevents long-term homelessness. We also get support from HUD and Idaho Housing, but we have some also great community members who come alongside us in this journey and support us too. We have 10 churches that are partners that we go and they do a special offering for us. It's just the community has really wrapped around what we're doing, and we do have every reason to believe they will continue to do so. The buildings themselves, we are working with Lewiston High School. We believe the tiny houses will be built at the Lewiston High School in their career and technical center and then moved onto the land, which also means that if for some reason we went defunct, they could be moved away. If need be, we obviously don't anticipate that, or if the city decided not to renew the lease, they do require building permits and so on and so forth. So we've worked with the city on all of those pieces. As far as the kiddos, we've let you know that they're not going to be sex offenders. They're not going to be violent or drug-related felons. That does require that we will be doing fingerprint background checks. That's part of the deal to get in. The bottom line is, hey, I love these freaks. They are just amazing kids who have started life in a terrible spot. And we have an opportunity to help them become vital, productive citizens. The youth center started out of my house because my kids brought home extra kids and we did it in my house for 10 years. The kids who came through my house are now the tellers you see at your banks. They're the managers of the restaurants that you go to. They're members of the community that are participating because they had people to do life with them. We just want to maximize that impact generationally in our community. So thank you again for your consideration.
I'm reading real quick to see if we can. We are allowed. Okay, so please,
I
Kathy.
do have a question. And I heard the audience concern about losing their park. I feel that. So I want to address that, and it sounds like your project is contingent on that park being declared surplus property, which is not a sure deal. So as far as I understood from our city attorney.
We're gonna dance again.
Jennifer Tangano, City Attorney. The property has not been declared surplus at this time. But a determination has been made that it is currently underutilized.
Jennifer, for clarity, I do believe, and I could be mistaken, I do believe that should it be declared surplus, is there a public hearing surrounding that decision?
So there's two different processes the city could potentially pursue as far as disposing of the property or leasing the property. If the city were to dispose of the property, then it would have to make a declaration that the property is surplus, or so it's not needed for city purposes. And they would make a declaration of that. There would be a public hearing to discuss the different requirements associated with whether or not the city should sell it. Typically, that's done following the declaration. There's public notices that do go out. There is a formal process that the city must have. And then after that process, then the property is sold at public auction to the highest bidder. The other process is the city has the ability to lease city-owned property that is underutilized, and it would be leased for public purposes. This is how like the fairgrounds gets leased out. It's leased out for public purposes. Same thing with the community centers, gets leased out for public purposes. This would be a similar situation where it's city-owned property leased for a public purpose, which would be providing transitional housing for youth or however it ultimately gets determined. But the city council also has a process it has to have because it is park ground. 1/2 plus 1 of the city council would have to approve the lease. It's not a majority vote. So there would that would occur after negotiations of the lease and terms is determined. So we're not quite there yet. The city has elected not to continue any negotiations concerning the lease because it is the property owner. So there has been an intentional distancing between the lease and the CUP application because in the event any appeal were granted based on a decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission, it would go to the city council. So there has not been discussions with the city council about this application or the lease terms at this point.
Of course. But at any given time, members of the public who have concerns about a possible or potential lease, should the CUP go forward, the public can in fact reach out or attend city council meetings to express concerns outside of a public.
The members of the public are able to comment at the public comment portion of any city council meeting, except in those instances where there is a matter that is subject to a quasi judicial process, is eminently going to be heard in front of the city council. And that would include this matter for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
Because of the fact that depending on any decision the Planning and Zoning Commission makes, there is a period in which affected parties or the applicant could appeal that decision, in which it would go to the city council. The city council is aware that this application is pending and has been instructed to not communicate about this project until after further notification from the city attorney's office.
Okay, so.
I have a question for Jennifer. My concern, and if I were a citizen in the neighborhood, I would probably be voicing the concern, is that the city is looking at this piece of property as being underutilized. Now, if it used to be a park and used to be green space and everything else, and suddenly the city determined that they weren't going to maintain that, that would create that situation of it being underutilized, in my opinion. And now, I guess I'm looking at it, what is the tentative possibility of the city determining that this is a public purpose? Which to me, this very much differs from the community center, which is open to public access, the fairgrounds, which is open to public access. This is not a property that's going to be open to public access. So I have a hard time wrapping my brain around the idea of this being considered an underutilized property, with it being intentionally let go, creating that situation, opening us up for potential litigation, turning it into, even though saying, you know, and I get it, I do think we need a resource. We absolutely need a resource for these kids. But that particular property being leased as a public resource when it's gonna be closed off to the public.
I understand your concerns, but I believe that those concerns concerning the terms of a lease is outside the scope of the pending application that's for the Planning and Zoning Commission. The commission should focus on the standards and criteria that will be subject to the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Although you are welcome to express your concerns outside of this matter as a public member, so long as those decisions don't inform, or those opinions don't inform your decision tonight, which should be wholly based on tonight's record, and the applicant and all affected parties are afforded an unbiased decision from all members of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So, just so that it's clear and as a reminder to the commission, I agree with what Jennifer just said, but you've got criteria that are set in city code to consider these applications against, and they do not include whether or not the use could happen somewhere else, or whether or not the property in question could be used for something better than what's being proposed. Those criteria are whether or not the proposed use will result in conditions that will generate nuisances, whether or not the proposed use is a public necessity or deemed to be a benefit to the public, whether or not the proposed use, if developed according to the plan, will be in harmony with the area that's located, whether or not it would endanger the environment, public health, or safety, and whether or not the use be in substantial conformance with the comprehensive plan. Those are the criteria that you're required to judge these applications against.
Thank you, Joel, for that clarification. I want to state that I believe our applicant came in and addressed all of the questions or concerns the public had. Thank you, Jennifer. That were within her ability and this application's scope. The discussion about opportunities for members of the public to maybe later on address the city concerns or the concerns about these other items not specific to planning and zoning and this application today. There will be opportunities, and I thank Jennifer for expressing the varying paths that those discussions can take outside of this meeting and outside of this commission. I believe that the commission has heard you. I believe the applicant has heard you, and our focus tonight is the concerns specific to our criteria and standards. But I want you to know you've been heard, and there will be opportunities outside of this for the public. So I thank you very much. Thank you, Michelle. Barring any additional questions from commissioners. Oh, Michelle, I'm going to pull you back one more time. For clarity, you have told this, I'm looking at the list of questions that our public have brought forward. You have addressed the vetting, the background checks, the legal quality of the applicants that may be living in a future tiny village near you. I hope that that has calmed your concerns. The community spaces for the neighborhood are outside this scope. Not only what the park used to be, but what the city's decisions regarding maintenance are about. This is outside of Michelle. Parking and traffic conditions did not get addressed with Michelle, so I'm gonna touch on that really quickly. As a one-way street, as a residential experience, does your plan involve parking permits for individuals allowed to park in that space? Does your plan have ideas on how they would handle disruptive neighbors? I'm not looking at any of you, but we've heard about it. Does your plan address how guests of your village, not residents, but guests of your village, when, where, and where will the community handle the overflow of visitors if in fact those 6 lots identified are for residents only? So I think that the community here has some questions. Aging infrastructure, I think, has fallen outside of your scope. That's going to be Public Works and City Council. It is not ours, but we've heard you. So I think right now, as far as the parking and the narrowness of 22nd is more, we're gonna allow Michelle, if she can, to address the impact that you as the residents of that neighborhood may experience. So, Michelle, can you?
Commissioner Ball, in case the commission does have questions for Public Works, we do have a city engineer that is present.
Okay, so we'll see what Michelle has to say, and then the commissioners would like to have a brief visit with our Public Works Director. I'm all for it.
Not the director.
Of course. The stand-in director.
I was gonna say, I don't think Dustin's here.
Well, I don't know. Mr. Public Works is back there somewhere. So, Michelle.
So with regard to the parking, right now, the United Way staff is 3 folks.
Mhm.
We're gonna add 1 more full-time employee.
Mhm.
So, my plan would be for staff to use those parking spots on 22nd Street.
Okay.
In the rare occasion that a participant has a car, then they would park there, but part of their onboarding would be making sure they understand what that means
Mhm.
and probably backing into the spot. Because that makes more sense. If you back into the spot, then when you go to leave, it's a front view.
Signage, thoughts about restrictions from general public parking.
Absolutely. We want to be respectful of the neighborhood. We don't want to just flood the place with signs. But yes, we would make sure that it's very clearly marked that this would be for our folks to use, not necessarily other folks in the neighborhood. I know right now, there are other people in the neighborhood that are using that for parking and backing onto the street pretty consistently. And so we would probably post that it would be, if you are using that spot, we'd have you towed because it'll be reserved for our team.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
It follows along your line of thought. So what would happen to your plan if we didn't approve the variance as part of this conditional use permit? What impact would that have on your overall plan and design?
Because of the requirements of distance from, you have to stay the 10-foot setbacks, the 15-foot setbacks from the street, the curb and guttering, all the other requirements involved in this. If we can't use those parking spots as they're being used now, it would devastate the project. To be quite honest.
And if I may, we did see on the photographs, we did see vehicles parked off the street on 22nd onto that empty property. Yes. And you are confident they are mostly overflow of current neighborhood residents?
I am unaware as to who owns and operates those vehicles. In my visiting of the site and looking things over, I have seen people come out of the neighbors' buildings to use that space.
So potentially visitors of the neighborhood.
Absolutely. The camper, I'm not sure who put that there. It is city-owned property, which sets you up for a whole bunch of other things that I'm not going to mention, but yes,
Okay.
it's one of those things. So with the parking, the visitors will be using East Main. If we have more visitors than we have spots on East Main, like let's say we're having an outdoor movie night behind the United Way, then I actually have a great relationship with our friends at El Sombrero, and I would ask if we could use their up overflow parking for that event to make sure it isn't flooding the neighborhood with kids' cars.
Thank you.
So again, we're very passionate about being respectful neighbors and honoring the space. With regard to if we have disruptive neighbors of our own, you know, from the neighborhood, that would fall back to our relationship with the Lewiston Police Department. We would work together to address that. That answer all of your questions?
I believe, and I was just trying to document what those that chose to speak were addressing that were within our scope of addressing. So barring any additional commissioner questions, I believe, thank you.
Thank you again.
So this portion of this meeting is now
Talk about the infrastructure. We're gonna talk.
Oh, did you want to talk to the city engineer?
Yeah, the city engineer.
oh yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. All it up here. There were public comments regarding the existing nature and age of the lines. Yes, so when you speak to that with an additional demand this village would pose.
Somebody said that, if I could speak, somebody said, one of the audience members said that they were promised additional work on their area to commence soon.
Pat Severance, development engineer. Yeah, I'm not aware of the condition of the water lines in the road with that. We've got a lot of aging infrastructure in the downtown. Service lines are on their own schedule for being replaced.
So it would be where it sits on the schedule and whether it's bumped or not, as far as this particular neighborhood and this particular potential development.
Adding the insignificant load they're gonna be using isn't gonna be disruptive to what's there now.
Okay.
It's not gonna create any, this isn't gonna be catastrophic to what's existing. If there's an aging problem with the infrastructure there, that's on a maintenance schedule to get repaired in due time. Didn't tell you that.
Okay, no,
Where that's at with that,
I
but.
appreciate we caught you off guard. So what I'm hearing is it would be a reach out to the director or the city council as to where that might, addressing existing structure would be scheduled. Those are the individuals that you would direct public to
Right,
regarding.
I could talk to our water manager on the schedule of replacement of that main, but
But-
again, it's already getting service now, so I don't know if the internal plumbing is going to extend to the kitchens or if they're gonna actually have new meters installed. But again, this is such a minor,
Yeah, I think we're
it's such a
thinking
minor draw.
the
of-
cottages.
So it's gonna be such a minor draw of water or addition to the sewer that it's gonna be negligible to the current condition.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Everybody good? Okay, thank you again. So now that we have an idea and direction for further questions that cannot be addressed here. I again want to thank everybody who has come forward and has spoken in favor and against and the why. And we've heard you. And I'm hoping that we did our best. Structurally, I cannot, at this particular juncture, we cannot re-invite public to come back up. This is that period closed, correct? No? Yes? Joel?
So you haven't closed the hearing yet. You have the opportunity to let people speak again, but if you do that, you'll have to let the applicant get another rebuttal before you.
Okay, okay, and I want you to feel addressed. So sir, if you would like to reapproach the podium and in 3 minutes, do a follow-up and Michelle can then address that directly. But it has to be, sir, in the scope of planning and zoning and in the scope of this application, not outside the perimeters that we have no answers to or no power to respond to.
You want to say anything, Danielle? Do you want to say anything?
I will remind you, you do have still a voice. You have a city council. I believe there's 5 or 6 individuals in the leadership as well as the mayor that you always have the means to reach out. No?
I would note too, for everyone, the mayor is a non-voting member on this particular application, so you can direct comment to him. Because he is not participating in the deliberation or the voting on this particular application. As an employee of the city, he's prohibited.
Thank you, Jennifer, for that. So what she's saying is any complaints, concerns outside the boundaries of this commission, please direct to your mayor, either in writing, by phone, any method of your choice. Okay? So last call.
I did have one question.
All right, hold up here.
There you go. I'll follow you.
All right.
So I do have a couple of quick
Nope,
questions.
we're gonna ask you to restate your name and
Okay, my name is Jennifer Squires and I live on 22nd Street. I have a couple of quick questions. If we are applying for a permit for a special condition, whatever, why could the other property not work? If we are applying for a special permit. My other question was, what kind of financial gain is she getting out of this? Like, I understand there are a lot of
I'm
federal
gonna stop
permits.
that question because that's
Alright,
beyond
thank
the
you.
scope of
Thank
this
you.
Okay.
application.
thank you. And as far as redirecting attentions, if I may, to other properties, those reasons, like whether it's for sale, whether it's not for sale, whether it meets all the codes, I think Michelle has in fact addressed that it does not meet all the criteria that code has defined as needed.
From my understanding, neither does this property though.
Oh, okay, that would be a question, I think, outside of.
Okay,
Thank you, no, thank you very
Thank you.
much for your time. I believe that would be a question for the. Oh. Community development, would it be, outside of. The criteria is published in code as to tiny villages, correct? Yes. So that is certainly online information, I believe that some research could answer. I just don't have the answers right now, specific to the other piece.
I do have a technical answer that I could kind
Thank
of
you.
give for that. Sorry, I'm just pulling up the code. When it pertains to the grant or denial of conditional uses, anytime a conditional use is identified as being permitted with authorization of the Planning and Zoning Commission, then it's considered to be a permitted use based on that permission within city code. So just because a particular use requires application of a conditional use within a zone to be permitted, it is otherwise permitted. So in the M1 light zone, a transitional housing village is permitted with a conditional use permit, therefore it's otherwise permitted, if that makes sense. And that's Lewiston City Code Section 37-160.
For a layman's terms, which I'm still scrambling with, Jennifer can probably be reached for a better definition outside of this setting.
I do not give legal advice to outside parties or interpretations of city code for
Okay.
anyone but the city.
Okay, well, you heard her. So, sir, you have an opportunity. Please state your name when you are heard.
Thanks for all coming and listening to us. We're just neighbors. We are friends and we are family. We're not here to start problems, but we don't want problems in our neighborhood. If these were such good kiddos, how come they have to have their own facilities?
I
Or
believe
be
that
banned?
comment is also outside.
It
of
is,
the
it is,
sorry,
it is.
I'm sorry.
Application.
But if they were,
This is not about the residents.
it was still, I still would love to see it a park for our future generations to come. I don't think that our children should be submitted to what's on that side of the fence and what's on this side of the fence. This isn't Russia. We're not, this fence is gonna separate this and this fence is gonna separate that. It's supposed to be good for everybody.
And sir, this board has not made the decision
I know.
that the city has regarding the park maintenance or what used to be a park
But
that
will-
has since been.
Will we have another opportunity to voice our concerns once before you guys take a vote?
No, you have had the floor regarding that particular concern. That particular concern is something that you have had opportunity since abandonment of the maintenance of that park to address with the city repeatedly. I think that this is.
We weren't in control of the city abandoning that property.
I don't think that this
No,
discussion
no.
is currently.
Okay,
within the scope
thank
of
you.
this
Yeah,
application.
so outside of this application and this board. Okay? Yes.
Can I get your name again, sir?
Keith Watson.
Thank you, though, Keith, for coming forward. I think the questions you have are something that you would be addressing with the mayor.
And I do agree with the lady over here.
Thank you very much. All right, Michelle, you do have an opportunity to come back. I'm not sure of the two conversations. What is relevant, if you can respond to.
Well, I just want to first say thank you for making sure that everyone gets a chance to be heard. I think that's really important in our community and in our democracy. So thank you for participating in that process and for handling it with eloquence. There was a comment about financial gain, so I just am going to use this as an opportunity. I just want to say, I'm a volunteer. I actually sell software full-time and I don't
I
get
would
paid for
also
anything.
say that Ms.
That's
King's
not-
comments are outside of the scope.
They are.
Okay, so
Not our
back-
business.
Back on topic, but
Alternative property, I think, is the only thing that came up that you can probably speak directly to. And you have already addressed the fact that it did not meet a criteria or all the criteria or code specifics to tiny villages. Although you did not go into detail as to which ones. And Joel,
And also, as I said before, that's not one of the criteria that you can consider.
I understand. So thank you again for your willingness to come forward and speak to everyone's concerns applicable. So I think we have reached a point of doing the best we can. It's time for us to close the public hearing for an argument and then begin our deliberations based on the 5 criteria presented in front of the board that we are allowed to review. So thank you, everyone, seriously. Okay, kids. Anybody need a break, a breath? Not happening. All right.
After we get through this, the faster we get through this.
So. All right, I know we're all beat to death. Let's go ahead and get out the criteria. If we can, please.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I will need to leave after we deliberate and vote on this because my wife is having a slightly mild allergic reaction and it's. Oh my God. So it's not as bad as it sounds,
On
but
agenda item D, expect to be, you're
Yes.
missing, so you can't defend yourself.
you can nominate me.
I plan to.
It's fine. I just wanted to get on the record that I will need an excused absence after this.
All right, thank you, everyone. So moving forward, and I am not in any way, shape or form making light of the weightiness of the topics. Let's just criteria. Proposed use will or will not result in conditions that will tend to generate nuisances such as noise, dust, glare, vibrations, and odors. Or if so, any anticipated nuisances will be appropriately mitigated I believe Michelle gave us a PowerPoint and Michelle addressed, lights, noise, litter.
Yeah, she said there's gonna be solar lights. So they will be.
She said warm light.
Yeah, not like a parking lot.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about general nuisances and the definition as such is more specific to these particularly listed things. So I think if we I don't know if we expand it out to increase traffic down a one-way or,
In a one-way or dead end street.
It's a dead end. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm tired, not gonna lie. So, and as far as that is concerned, it is already, in my opinion, already being used for overflow in that particular neighborhood. Maybe certainly removing it as an option for village members, which might be an impact that is in the nature of any neighborhood. Sir.
I will say as well, I mean, I would argue that it will not result in conditions that tend to generate nuisances, but I would also point out that based on the testimony from the applicant and because of their socioeconomic status and their age, the odds of them having cars are fairly low. It's been discussed as well that they're not just going to just allow Joe Schmo to come onto the property. So I would argue that the applicant has also made a good faith effort to mitigate that nuisance and the impact to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Gabe. Anyone else?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I also on that note that the applicant has a track record, I mean, other facility, property, same line of work, I guess. But so, and I didn't see anybody here saying that she's been a terrible neighbor in that respect.
Thank you. Emily.
And also the quiet hours, time periods that will be enforced from 10 PM to 6 AM. I don't think that that would generate any other nuisances, so I would agree with Gabe that it will not result in conditions that will generate nuisances.
And bouncing off of that, in a standard neighborhood, we don't get to screen or have a specific awaken. We have code, but we cannot enforce our existing neighbors. And so I do believe that it is taking extra measure specific to the village and to the village residents that provides an added pleasantry to residents of that neighborhood. So I agree. I do not believe it will result. And if there is any objections, speak now.
I just had a quick note too.
Yes.
You guys can also rely on some of the statements from staff and the staff report and incorporate that into your decision making.
My copy of the
Hmm.
staff
A lot of
report, so
paper
I
to go
can't
through.
tell you what the statements are.
It should be in the electronic file, but there is a note that a traffic generation statement is needed as a part of the development.
Excellent.
As well as future discussions on the open stormwater channel and installation of a bridge of the open channel. And that an engineering study design needed to determine. So, you know, these statements that are part of the record that was introduced.
I think they address bigger issues. Thank you, Jennifer.
Point out that some of this is part of the development process and not necessarily the use aspect.
Yes. So I subscribe to the expertise and input of the staff report, which I do not have in front of me. So anybody that has it, but I'm willing to share those points before we go into discussion on the next one. More than appreciated, because I can't look at a screen and talk and watch you all. Okay, so I think that we are in general consensus. It will not. Number two, the proposed use is or is not a public necessity. But is or is not justified by the applicant deemed to be of a benefit to the public. And I'm gonna go ahead and jump off on this one, as much as a conversation topic came up about public versus not being public. The residents are members of the public. And therefore, although it is limited in number, it is in fact, in my opinion, a benefit to the public. And I am well open to opposition or disagreement or counter argument.
No.
Commissioners.
Madam Chair, I will agree that it is a public necessity and it is justified. It absolutely is justified. I think this is something, I know that the current resource center that they're operating is a huge positive impact to the valley. So that was not at all my dispute, is that, you know, there's a difference for me anyway, between a public necessity, which this obviously is, and the public
Access.
access.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Totally different
We're
things,
not gonna
but no,
split that hair here.
I definitely believe that this proposed use is a public necessity and is justified by the applicant and deemed to be a benefit to the public. We all know the statistics out there. We know that, you know, the kiddos, a lot of the kiddos need that, and especially kids coming out of foster care who are just being tossed to the wolves, so.
Thank you. Any counter arguments or additions to Mo's statement or perception? Dave? Your face?
No, well,
Somebody's face.
Kevin was gonna go too, so I'll follow you, Kevin.
So I know, that, going on to the public necessity, I know the state government is focusing on improving the foster care system in the state of Idaho, and, you know, this would be just I think, a leader of that, I think.
Thank you, Kevin. Gabe?
Yeah, I'll just echo, what Maureen said. In terms of, we all know the statistics, the McKinney-Vento Act tracks homeless children in Lewiston. And they're not necessarily 18 to 20, but there's over 100 listed children in just the Lewiston School District. And I personally believe that that is undercounting, because that has to be disclosed to a school social worker. And kids don't like to disclose that stuff. They don't like it going around any more than any of us would at our age. And also when you consider the fact that these individuals will be utilizing resources in our community one way or the other, and that involves dollars, usually at the local level. So dealing with this issue at any level, I consider a public necessity, and I do think it's justified.
Thank you for sharing that, Gabe. Barring any additions, let's just agree.
Well, I have one little benefit to the public that.
Yes, Kathy.
Because if they do lease that parkland, they will be getting.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what you just said?
So if they pay the city, if the city leases that land to these people, they will be getting some funds.
So it's a revenue source for the
It's a
city.
revenue source for the city that they're not getting.
Okay.
I mean, just a benefit.
That well. Got it. Yeah, I'm not gonna argue property taxes right now. Number three, the character of proposed use, if developed according to the plan as submitted, will or will not be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located. And this one can be considered a little bit. Do we have a brief, city, staff viewpoint on, that I don't have in front of me? What was in the report?
Yeah, so, my observation is that, it could be considered to be in harmony by virtue of the fact that, the parking situation, will be paved. There's some parking that doesn't meet code right now. It's parking in the right of way that's gonna be removed.
Okay.
The new parking is going to be paved and striped, so it'll be more defined. Which will probably tend to keep neighbors who are using what is now grass and dirt and gravel on this property for parking, to keep them, you know, to know that that's, you know, supposed to be reserved for this facility.
There's gonna be security lighting, which will be downcast, cut off, low level. And as the applicant described, warm. There's gonna be a site obscuring fence around the perimeter.
Mhm.
That fencing will be similar to residential fencing in the neighborhood.
I could be wrong, but I think there was discussion about outward facing security cameras and recorded footage, which might be of benefit in general to the community of that area.
I'd also like to remind the commission too, that the applicant's presentation is also a part of the record for this. And if you want to incorporate provisions of that into your decisions, you can do so as well.
Visions
of what was presented as far as the proposed use if developed according to the plan as submitted. So.
If developed as presented and on record.
I would also add, I think it's pertinent to look at the applicant's record as well. I don't have any solid dollar amounts or comparisons, obviously, but the facility that the applicant currently uses now, I don't think anybody would say that that is a detriment to the neighborhood. So just using that as a reference point, if the plan comes through as submitted, I would argue that that is a proxy for that it will be in harmony with the area in which it is located.
I will also address that we are focused in our comprehensive plan in these transitional sectors that marry commercial or industrial to mixed use residential to, and I think in that specific goal for our community, it is in fact building at the front end of a neighborhood where residents are tucked to the back. It is building and refining what would appear to be a updated residential presence. And I'm treading carefully on that, but I do believe that it does meet the transitional aspect of one zone switching to another zone, switching to abutting a third. And that is, I'm gonna just stand on that one.
Madam Chair?
Yes, oh. Okay, first Emily.
I would, to piggyback off of what you said, it isn't a mixed use neighborhood in the light industrial district. And so that was my just the other thing that I wanted to mention, that it would fit in with that area.
Thank you, meets the zone specific. Shay.
So I would agree with that, but also in her presentation, she stated, I mean, including security measures, but also making sure that it's homely, like it's, you know.
Homely is.
Only me.
It's what I look like in the morning and not look much right now. Okay, but yes, I agree. Thank you, Shay, for that.
Will be more of a neighborhood.
It is.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And Joel.
I just wanted to suggest that another compatibility issue might be the other uses that are permitted by right in the zone. And how they might be much more heavily adverse impact to the residential neighborhood than what this use is. For example, heavy equipment sales and service, industrial laundry, bars, gas stations, tire recapping, truck terminals. There are a host of issues that, because the property zoned industrial, would be more incompatible
Another bike shop that actually runs heavy
potentially
equipment.
than what this use is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is a
Madam Chair,
yes.
I just want to, I guess, just interject a comment into here. And this has been my concern throughout. I'm really torn on this project because I think that the Youth Resource Center is an incredibly valuable thing. However, I think a large portion of this question, as it goes to harmony within the area, my biggest concern is that throughout the scope of this entire hearing, I have not seen one neighbor step forward in support of this project. And, you know, I get that a lot of our community leaders and things like that and community resource people are reaching out and in support of it. And I absolutely believe that we need something like this. I think when I look at things in terms of harmony, I like to take myself down to that granular level and say, if I were in their exact same situation, what would my response be? And I think part of what we have heard here this evening is not necessarily opposition as much to the project itself. I'm hearing a lot of neighborhood loss. And so that's where I'm torn on that one. So I do not see it as being as harmonious as what I would like to see.
I'm gonna jump on that for just a second, because I'm not playing the devil's advocate here. Factually, that park has been abandoned by the city. Factually, that did not just happen.
No.
Factually, that lot has drawn in its vacancy and in its lack of irrigation and in its lack of maintenance, in its lack of park-like structures, and historically in its already being partitioned off and sold, if I understand the history of the expanse of what was there versus what is there now, I believe. And I'm not weighing it, I believe that this city as an entity has already made a decision and has moved forward on it, and I'm talking way back. So I'm hearing a lot of the residents wanting what was, but this did not happen yesterday, and this will not be reversed if this were not to proceed.
And Madam Chair, I absolutely understand that and I agree with that, but I also know that, especially hearing about people having issues with their sewer and water lines and having to have that repaired, the city of Lewiston has been less than responsive to its residents, especially after, you know, the stormwater issues and everything else that we've suffered. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
not saying that, you know, I wasn't there for it, so I can't say that the people who are complaining tonight didn't complain previously. It could have gone unheard. All I'm saying is, when I look at a matter of something like this and having it being in harmony with the area, I want to make sure that, the voices of the people who are most directly affected are heard.
Having been through a few of these myself, I always look at it first from how I would handle it in my own neighborhood and how I feel about it. And stay tuned, because there will be times I'm gonna be right in their seats, doing exactly what they do. But on the flip side of that, even though we are a commission made up of any number of people, I want you to know that you've gone on record.
Yeah.
That you disagree with the harmonious law of the agreement. I think that Joel, the city staff have addressed the positives. I believe that the community members impacted most closely have addressed the negatives. And
Madam Chairman, I want to go on record as I agree with Maureen.
okay. Thank you for that. And this is where we're going to, as a unit, decide whether it does or does not meet the harmonious factor despite. I mean, so I'm getting a no.
Well, I will just say, I don't disagree with what Maureen has said, but I have an issue with that because that makes the applicant, who had no responsibility for any action that the city has taken in the past, responsible for that, which means ultimately the only outcome that can be positive in that sense is that it becomes a park again. And that is where I am having two clashes, which is we don't hold somebody responsible for, say, a dilapidated building that they're trying to redo under a conditional use permit, just to use another example. So that is where philosophically, I agree with Maureen, but I also can't hold the applicant responsible for that. And so if I vote that it's not in harmony with the area, then essentially I am holding the applicant responsible for decisions that have been made in the past.
I will remind the commission that the applicant, well before coming before this board, approached the owner of said property and the body that made the decision about the potential future of said property. And that has all taken place and gone well before this board is hearing this. Our job is to focus on an agreement that's being reached by an applicant and the property owners right now. So as far as this applicant can address whether this is harmonious to the neighborhood, whether the village will fit in, I believe that the zone, the surrounding areas, both residential and industrial, which is just to the east of it. Look at me with my numbers. I believe to the best of the applicant's ability, what is being offered will be. But that is my personal opinion. So to go on record, I need will nots. I would like to see the will nots. Okay, Kathy.
Let me.
We're gonna jump over Kathy for a
Jump
second.
over me for a second.
Gabe,
It will be in compliance.
Kevin,
Will.
Shay, Emily? Will. Okay, I'm going to agree with the wills. What we will note is it is not a unanimous will, if at all the record wants to show that. Okay, no, it does not. Kathy?
So I am going to say, the way this reads, I believe that if it's developed as submitted, it will be in harmony with the area, even though
I don't think anybody's disrespecting the will. Okay, we gotta stay focused on what we are here and what our parameters are, as well as the deep concerns of the residents and what has been addressed specific to this application. Okay, the proposed use will or will not endanger the environment or the public health or safety. Joel, what's your recap on the city staff statement regarding that one? Will it endanger the environment?
So relative to criteria number 4, if this application is approved, safety and security plan has not been fully approved, but it's been tentatively approved by the police department. That will have to be completely approved and finally approved prior to occupancy of the use. I guess the other thing might be they will have to comply with all the health department requirements for commercial kitchens and service of food. They'll have to provide off-site stormwater detention facilities. Could consider the parking backing out on 22nd Street a safety issue. So I don't know how you want to wrap that one, but that is a request to waive that standard to allow the parking to back out on the 22nd Street. The applicant talked about it and having the people park there back into those spots instead of backing out on the street. It is a dead end street. It's a low volume traffic street. So I don't know where you guys want to land with that, but that could be an issue tied to this criteria as well.
Thank you. My first thought before driving it, but looking at the maps, I thought, oh my gosh, we're gonna have people in the eastbound lanes trying to cut across, and I believe it's a double line right there, but trying to cut across to go north and turn into the access point on the north or on the south end of the property, which abuts Main. And my thought was there could be potentially quite the traffic jam if they can't make the corner. But now I realize that the residents on 22nd probably already know and may do that when nobody's looking. I sometimes think there were a couple of them. I don't know how that works. So I'm gonna trust that the traffic study or the traffic assessment.
Traffic statement, yeah.
Thank you very much. Will address that concern for me. There's also been a concern brought up about overflow parking up behind. Thank you. Would have individuals and residents crossing 4 lanes to either catch a bus stop or to walk to and from the facility, and that definitely could be a point of concern and safety. And I'm going to trust that, oh, yes, Joel,
I wasn't trying to cut you off, but I just, okay.
knock yourself out.
So another element you might consider relative to safety is the fact that there's no sidewalk on the east side of 22nd Street. So if this project is approved, they'll be required to put sidewalk in on that side of the street, so people won't have to walk into the street to avoid the mud from the dirt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So upgrade to the current city street. Thank you very much. So I'm open to more. Anyone?
I mean, where you
Go
going?
ahead.
Oh, sorry. Some of this has already been discussed and was in the applicant's testimony as long as the presentation, cameras, security fences, lighting. So I mean, I think all that's pertinent to public health and safety as well.
In partnership with the local police.
The safety plan, yeah.
Yeah, that would, I think would probably increase police presence in the area, which may help with the biker parties mentioned.
Have a couple pedestrians crossing the street, we might get a street. Crosswalk? There you go. Yeah, my brain hurts. Okay, okay, so right now I'm hearing or feeling that it will not endanger the environment. Opposition, counter argument.
Madam Chair, I'm on the same page as you. I think it should be subject to some kind of traffic safety. I guess I look at it this way, you know, and I understand most of it's gonna be parking, is gonna be staff. But as a mother of multiples, my kids all drive and, you know, all got vehicles within that time frame. And vehicles mean freedom to kids and that transportation capability. And I know, because my daughter has nearly run over the neighbor's mailbox about a half a dozen times backing out of our driveway, and it's a fully lit street.
But Maureen, I might add that Michelle has addressed maybe the requirement of backing.
Yeah, but okay. I wouldn't want her backing in either. I'm just saying, I think it's something that.
Can you just take the car away from your daughter? Public safety. Okay.
I'm just saying that I, you know, having raised multiple kids and dealt with teenagers and the whole 9 yards, and having been one myself at one point, it is concerning to me that, you know, because kids are going to be getting vehicles and things like that. So I think that's something that really needs to be nailed down as to which kids are, you know, like there's gotta be some good stuff in there, because it's not just a hazard to the neighborhood, it's a hazard to the kids who are gonna be living there and driving.
Okay, counter argument here. No park, no tiny village, existing residents. I've been hearing from our existing residents in that community that now they have grandchildren present. Now they have young children that would enjoy the park. Those grandchildren, those young children, because I am surrounded by young children in our current neighborhood, grow to developed and not so small children that then draw the attentions of visitors. And so whether tiny village and potential visitors or current residents, stacked on multiple generations living in the same home and grandkids and then teen grandkids will draw the public. I am a testament to this because I'm flanked by it. one pretty teen and you've got a lot of traffic, just saying. But we can't, and she's not mine, we cannot hold the applicant responsible for the nature or the talent of the visitors. And truthfully, society will not allow us to hold the applicant responsible for the talent or absence of the residents.
I would add 2 points to this conversation. One, more cars on any street is going to increase the probability of an accident, whether they're 20-year-olds or grizzled 60, 70-year-olds who have 50 years of experience. But B, I would also add that I think some of this would be discussed if required in disciplinary action by staff on premises. So if a kid has a car and is driving like crazy and doing loop-de-loops or something like that, I would think that's a violation of their agreement at the village and that they would be held responsible.
I also believe that the applicant addressed the fact that if a resident or a guest of the village has an automobile, they have to have a valid license, they have to have coverage, insurance, they have to have an operational vehicle. So.
And the fact that that's a really big if.
Yes, yes.
So these aren't.
And I get
these
that.
aren't kids that
My-
are gonna be
my-
given cars by their parents.
My point that I am trying to make is one of the biggest concerns that was raised in the traffic analysis is that this is not your standard parking situation.
Yeah.
Where you've got cars that do not have any other option other than to either back into the spaces or back out. That's the only reason, I mean, every time we look at it, adding anything, whether it's a subdivision or anything else, we know we're adding additional vehicles to the flow of traffic, which increases the odds. I mean, that's just a mathematical probability. The more cars you have on the road, the more odds you're gonna have of accidents. What I'm saying is, in this particular situation, this is a unique having to back out into general traffic. So I'm just saying that there is a safety concern because I know the inattentiveness of that age range.
True, but there is already an existing concern because there are already existing vehicles in that same location.
Well, it's closer to the street intersection, so it's worse there where they're doing it now.
Put the picture back up.
Oh, people,
Never mind. I'm trying.
I do want to remind everybody present that those 4 vehicles or 6 vehicles spaces, I believe Michelle was very clear in saying that she was gonna ask the staff to utilize that above and over these mythical potential resident
There will
vehicles.
be an additional study that will be done.
So I think we're bogging down. Thank you, everyone. I do not believe it will endanger the environment in a different way than is currently challenged in that same neighborhood. It may increase regular volume. It may increase because it's 7 days a week, housed 24/7. So it is not going to be introducing a non-existent or currently unexisting problem. It's going to potentially increase the odds, but of people doing the same thing that are currently already doing the same thing. So it has potential, yes, but not a new potential. It's an existing endangerment currently taking place. So thank you, everyone. We're back to the point, whether it's a will or will not, I'd like to see a show of hands on it will endanger. So by that, I'm going to accept that the vast majority believes it will not endanger community further than the presence of the home will not. Thank you. Lastly, please God.
Second to last.
Second to last.
Really? I thought it was 5. Come on. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry. The proposed use will or will not be in substantial conformance with the comprehensive plan. Joel.
If you want to, you can simply reference the goals, objectives, and actions listed in the staff report.
I love this.
Yes,
man.
please.
You want? Okay.
I had so many of them checked off to say, well prepared.
Still saying.
Thank you, Joel.
Take the suggestion.
You can list them off, we'll go
No, no.
home, I mean.
Okay,
I would love a recap, because.
okay, so, let's, I would say that it will be in substantial compliance with the comprehensive plan, and I will cite LU 2.1, diversity of housing options. H11, improved access to housing of affordable housing. H13 of to evaluate barriers to housing, because it'll be teaching how to get housing, first and last month's rent, those kind of things. H22, reducing barriers. I'll stop there.
Thank you. I think those are very important. Thank you for reiterating.
Hassan, the health and well-being of the community of who it affects, and that housing is a basic shelter is a right and not a privilege. It will enhance the health and safety and well-being of the residents.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're happy with that one. Finding 6. Please, Jesus. Pursuant to Idaho Code 67-6512, the conditional use permit may be granted subject to the ability of political subdivisions, including school districts, to provide services for the proposed use. Now, I could be completely off my springs here, but I think we were already talking, it's already in a bus line.
It's 0.2 miles from public transportation route.
Yeah.
And they referenced, Ms. King referenced working with local schools and school districts within the area.
In the event some of the residents are still in school. Thank you very much. Joel?
And all such political subdivisions receive public hearing notice on this application and then submitted objections.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, the
I caught up. I caught up.
The commentary we got in, at least from city departments was no objections. And we
Yes,
also
that is
didn't get
very
any
true.
objections from school districts or anything like that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm working through pudding now. Yeah, so I'd say overall, aside from a few counter arguments, this conditional use permit application and meet the old,
What about the waiver of the standard regarding the parking?
yes. So wait a minute, waiving the standard of the parking by standard.
Variance.
Variance.
Variance on the parking.
Thank you. See, and the variance being that we don't have the 10, but just the backing, the 20, okay. I think, in my opinion, we've already established that it currently happens, and this will be a more formal structure. But that would be, I would vote yes.
Wouldn't that be, wouldn't we,
So it,
would that be a part of the directing staff, or would that be?
Yes, it would be part of the reason statement.
so it would be part of the motion to draft the reason statement with the variance included in the reason statement.
Are you making a motion?
I was about,
The floor is open.
I was about to get there. So, Madam Chair, I will make a motion to direct staff to write a reason statement to approve conditional use permit application CUP 24-3 for transitional housing village with the variance included for the back end on Middle Street.
Do I have a second? Thank you. We have a motion and a second. And I will now call for a vote. All in favor of granting this conditional use permit and directing staff to perform or build a reason statement onto city council for finalization, say aye. Oh, no.
Yeah, James.
Somebody.
This is a final decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission, so the city staff will be drafting the reason statement to present to you for
Approval. Yeah.
approval.
Oh, thank you. So it doesn't, okay, thank you. So we will have one more revisit as it comes to us in a finalized document. Thank you very much for
I
that.
will add it technically may not end with us if there's an appeal, but I'm not gonna go there because it's outside the scope of what we're talking about.
Thank you. And that was why I said, hang on. So, again, call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Application passes. Real quick, to the residents that have spent all their time with us tonight. There is. Your voice is not silent. There is a body beyond us. There. Anyway. Thank you. Please know we heard you. We have, moving on.
I mean, yeah,
We,
I will need to be excused.
Yeah, knock
like I said,
yourself out. We've gotta-
but I will offer up. I am happy to be on this committee as well. So you may nominate.
Serious.
You may nominate me if you like, but
Okay.
Thank you. So next order of business is in fact appointment of committee members to create a work plan for the comprehensive plan. Now that we have created and approved the city has approved the comprehensive plan as drafted for the 2024, it goes to 2044. Now I think Joel, you're gonna tell us how we're all gonna group together to try to action items and maps. And we need a commission.
yes, I will.
So tell us, speak, wise Joel.
So you guys have an idea what this is gonna be about? It's develop a work plan to implement the new comprehensive plan. Okay, so with that, I'll just ask for 3 volunteers to be appointed by Cindy. Sure.
We have time frames or anything that.
Yeah,
Unknown. It's unknown.
So so one of the things that I was struggling with is, I think I read something and I could be completely incorrect. That there will be meeting times that might compete with an 8 to 5 job. Yes, no? No idea?
Depends on,
That's my concern.
depends on who, on what the group wants to do. So I still don't have everyone I need from, I need one more city council member. We're gonna have to figure it out as we go. They could be during the day, they could be in the evening. It's gonna depend on the majority of the people who are gonna be on it. There aren't any real parameters to this.
Okay.
The meetings will have to meet open meeting law requirements for like agenda publication and stuff like that.
By Zoom?
I don't know that we'll be able to make arrangements for that for this purpose. I could look into that. I'm guessing the meetings are gonna be once monthly. Probably an hour a piece. For how long, I don't know. Not done this before.
Volunteer to do it. Just understand I'm on jury duty for October.
And barring your husband breaking anything else.
Yeah, well.
Uh,
He's met his
Gabe,
quota.
yes, we have Gabe, we have Maureen,
I would, go ahead.
Sorry.
I would volunteer, but I just couldn't do it during work hours.
Well, I think that's a limitation. That's certainly one I'm feeling on my chest right now as well. So, if you are willing to volunteer, then you could work with Joel and, the group as a whole as to when the meeting times are, et cetera. And then, because that's not defined yet. So I think you have influence.
The other thing we could do is, we could, it's probably only gonna be once a month. most people get a lunch hour. I don't know if you do, we could meet over a lunch hour and make it a working lunch. I mean, that's a possibility. That's one possibility. I just don't know.
I will say that as a UI employee, I've got my 45-minute, travel times both directions. So to make these meetings, I bail out early. That's not a conflict, but it is a challenge. So if you are willing and tentatively okay to slide it in there and maybe Emily is a backup.
I could make a working lunch work. I have a lot of travel for my job, so it's more finding the day, but picking one day out of the month seems doable if it's a lunch break as well.
Okay, so what I'm gonna recommend is that we have the two locked in that have stood up front, Dave and Maureen. And then I would just ask one or the other of you to try to take the primary with a substitute or a alternative.
Primary, I just don't know.
All right, so we will
If that-
offer up Emily,
If that works.
and if schedules cannot work out, we will come back to Shay.
We will offer you course to the volcano.
In the most loving of ways. And I'm gonna say thank you very much for everybody who has stepped forward at all. There's a lot of me that wants to, I'm just calculating the travel times
No,
and the
that-
distance.
that would be
So,
Okay, if it'll get me out of jury duty, just kidding.
I don't think it qualifies. So, have you got what you need, Joel?
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I need a motion.
Oh, we have to vote?
You're supposed to appoint them.
Yes.
For the.
All right, here we go. I will accept the do I have to accept it or I make it?
You're
Okay.
making it.
I'm making a motion to appoint Commissioner Maureen, Commissioner Gabe, and Commissioner Emily to this ad hoc committee. With Commissioner Shea as an alternative, depending on scheduling conflicts. And I would look for a second to the motion. No? I'm that, you're that empowered.
You're that
Roll
awesome.
call vote.
But then I have to take a roll.
Okay, all right, so take it over, Dawn.
Okay, so roll call vote, Commissioner Anderson,
Yay.
Commissioner Branson,
Yay.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yay.
Commissioner Cable.
Yay.
Commissioner Wolf,
Yay.
Chair Ball.
Thank you again, all the volunteers.
Could be.
Nice, yay.
I like yay.
Eyes and nose.
Can we do,
Aye.
Shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes.
I'll get punchy.
EIEIO, right, all right, so.
We're all punched right.
Yeah, no, my brain hurts. Staff commission communications.
I don't have any other than asking who's gonna be at the September 11th meeting.
Present.
I plan on it.
Why is that a number in my head? I believe so, but I'm not. No, I know why. No, my husband just there was something up and I'm like, that's a sucky date to pick. So I don't know, but I don't know if it involves me either. So I'm going to say tentatively yes.
I think I will.
Yeah, I think I will also.
All right. Thank you.
Nothing on my phone.
And no other communications by staff?
And then
I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion, and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Yay.
Yay. No in opposition. Look at us win.
Yay.
Oh, I need that red wine.
I'm past my bedtime for red wine, actually. That 4 o'clock comes really damn early for me to sit around and drink my coffee for an hour before I get ready. I mean, you can't, right? You could drink red coffee, that everyone would look really pretty. But
I'm torn too. I feel.
today is the 28th, correct?
Yes.
Look at me. And here's
I'll come back
August.
up for you in just a second. I'm sorry, I would have.
Yeah, sorry to.
Grabbed it earlier.
You're working a marathon.
Thank you again, everyone.
I making sure it's.
I had to make sure you did something.
As much as I can. I mean, I'm involved. What are we gonna do? Right? If I don't have my foot in my
Do you
mouth.
have to fix it?
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Fix it and you can.
Yeah, condition of that water line is, yeah, I mean, you're.
It gives me reason to go to work and go, oh, duty, calls, I have to do.
Not gonna be.
Okay, well, I can get it.
I'll call Cynthia and ask her when she's 5 minutes.
That's good enough.
Okay, sounds good.
And Joel, thank you for being the champion like I need a marathon.
You're paid.
You're the one who came up with
You're the
the,
volunteer.
like, this code even exists.
Yeah, I did, I wrote it.
Yeah.
Good job, Dolly.
Thank you.
First.
Of these transitional villages.
Yeah.
And then.
And I wanted to ask that, but I realized it didn't pertain exactly. to
Right.
that.
Yeah, we don't know that for a fact, but
But we think it is, I mean.
I think it is.
Yeah, so. And Mo, I would say